Welcome back to another edition of the Rodcast. It is Tuesday, and we are creeping closer and closer to the weekend. That means the actual kickoff of Texas football. So we'll talk a lot of Texas football on the show. We'll hear from Steve Sarkisian, the head coach, had his Monday weekly press conference during the season, the start of that. So we'll also hear from him. We'll also get into Texas, Colorado, breaking down the matchup. CeeDee Lamb has a brand new contract. Finally, the Cowboys were able to get the deal done. We'll discuss that. We'll also get to some other NFL news, notes, and nuggets on the show. The NFL deciding to keep an old tradition alive. We'll discuss that coming up on the show, too. We also got your usual favorites. We got Rod's Rant. We'll have your topic for the big fat poll of the day. We also have off the record. We got who said that. We got what the facts, what the stats. We are loaded as usual. Tons of football to get into on the show. So we'll dive into it. But before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew because he's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. He's got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but I'm pretty damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It's Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
Hey, man, we're getting closer and closer to football, so you cannot be upset about that. I don't want to start the show on a sour note or a low note, but I do want to express my condolences to the royal family.
Yes.
I'm lucky enough that I got to spend some time around them because of friends of family, and so I've got to spend some time with Edith before, and she was genuinely one of the nicest people and most wonderful people you'd ever meet, and treated everybody like family, treated me like family every time I got to see her. So condolences to the royal family. Edith will be missed. She did a lot, like very, very strong person. I wouldn't say she's a strong person. She's an amazing person, Edith Royal was. So
well said, brother. Well
condolences to the royal family and to everybody in the Texas football family and athletics family, because I know she did a lot there and meant a lot to a lot of people. So condolences to them. But let's get to the show. My co-host is a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is a new Rod, father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
Yeah, great message there. Good stuff. Well said. And yeah, I agree with you. An icon for a lot of reasons and represented the university and the brand always in a very classy fashion. So, yes, condolences and to the whole entire royal family there and the Longhorn family. I know a lot of people are really close to the royal family, period. And they meant so much to the Longhorn community. All right. We'll get into some Texas football discussion. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment, talk some Texas football. But we'll probably start off talking about this new CeeDee Lamb contract, making him the second highest paid receiver in the league. We'll dive into it and get into some of the details and a Jerry Jones quote that I thought was a fake quote. Originally at first, it's such a bombastic quote. I thought it was somebody, making something up. So I wanted to make sure I got, multiple sources on it, and it's real. I've heard now multiple NFL insiders bring it up. So we'll dive into that quote, and who knows why Jerry Jones is speaking so emphatically. Dropped a few F-bombs. I mean, it was just, yeah. He's always obviously very outgoing. He'll give you a nice quote and, something that can go viral. But I don't know. I usually don't see him going expletive field rants. And this was kind of one of them. So we have the quote. I haven't found the audio of it. I don't know if there is audio of it. If it is, trust me, we'll try to find it. But it's from Clarence Hill. Clarence Hill. Yeah. Clarence Hill's actually switched up his the publications that he's working for now. He's no longer with the Fort Worth Star Telegram. I believe it's All Dallas. Is
that new? The new?
Yes.
The DLLS?
Yes. There you go. It's all and then DLLS.com. But
yeah,
I believe it means All Dallas.
That premiered yesterday, I think. Yes,
when
it started.
It dropped. Yeah,
and been waiting to drop that big one, wasn't he?
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if he's working with Jerry. Like, hey, you know what, Jerry? Give me something, man. I'm trying to let everybody know I'm at a new spot. But Clarence Hill, who's as dialed in as anybody with the Cowboys, the quote came from him. So we'll get into it because it's a. Did you read this quote?
I saw it yesterday. I wasn't sure if it was real or not either.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, nah, I don't know if that's real. And then I saw Pat McAfee bring it up, and I saw Pro Football Talk bring it up, and I was like, okay, well,
and two, it's Clarence. Like, it's not somebody. You're somebody like, well, none of this guy's trusted, and he's been around it for years. So it's not somebody that you would expect to see the quote and then
say also, they misquoted. Oh, he misquoted it.
And also, Clarence is online enough that if it was not real, he would have been
He
the
would
first to
put something
debunk
out
it.
there. That is true. Sheila's on there all the time. You're right. He's out there. Yeah, so we'll get into that because that is very interesting that Jerry so bombastically decided to state his case as to why. I think it's just kind of why he's a good GM, and he's not inept and dysfunctional like everybody perceives him to be at that specific position in that role. All right, so we'll get to that. Talk Cowboys. Before we do, we'll talk about the Longhorn players, some of them in the preseason, and now the preseason is over. The Longhorns who were drafted into the NFL. We'll talk about what hints and clues we can gain and extract from the preseason as to how they may be used and deployed with their team in the regular season. So we'll discuss that too. Mostly with offensive players. Hard to do with some of the defensive guys, but easier to do with the offensive players because fantasy world keeps up with that stuff. Snaps and route run, all these really nerdy things that can give you can foreshadow and give you a lot of clues as to how players are going to be used once the season starts up. All right, so we'll get into that too. But before we do, let's get informed, educated, and let's get updated on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros dropped the first game of their series with the Phillies 3-2 in extra innings last night. The Astros took a 2-run lead in the fourth on a Shea Whitcomb double, but gave up runs in the fifth and sixth innings to lead the game tied heading into extra innings. The Astros couldn't get the runner home from second, and Bryce Harper got a single in the bottom of the 10th, sending the winning run home. Justin Verlander will get his second start returning from injury today as the Astros look to even the series. And the Rangers begin their series with the league-worst Chicago White Sox today, hoping to make a last-ditch effort to run at the playoffs. Andrew Heaney gets the start for the Rangers against Garrett Crochet, who's been one of the only bright spots for the White Sox this season. In the NFL, the Cowboys finally came to terms with CeeDee Lamb on a 4-year, $136 million extension yesterday. The deal will reportedly include $100 million guaranteed and a $38 million signing bonus. The Cowboys are also reportedly meeting with free agent running back Dalvin Cook in Dallas as the final roster cuts are due today at 3 p.m. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, Patrick, thank you for the Horn Headlines. Let's talk about one of those headlines, CeeDee Lamb's new contract. And this is an interesting nugget from Jane Slater about the deal because CeeDee Lamb now second highest paid receiver in the league based on average annual value at $34 million, right behind Justin Jefferson. She says for a long time, the Cowboys were at $32.5 million in terms of the average pay per year. And then they moved up to 33. She said Lamb and that would actually align with some of the reports that we heard that the Cowboys weren't quite at 33. And then I guess they got to 33. It said that Lamb and his camp have been at 34 forever. So I guess that's where they started. They slotted them right after Justin Jefferson, and that's where CeeDee Lamb and his representatives came in. They never wavered from that number. And she said in the end, it became 34, 34 per year.
Yeah.
So that's what took so long. As the Cowboys are playing a little hardball. They might have gotten the fourth year. Maybe I think in the end, maybe that was also part of it, the fourth year and some of the guaranteed money. The signing bonus was $38 million. As you said, signing bonus stuff is funky. I'll because Adam Schefter says it was, I believe he says the highest for a receiver ever. But then in the Justin Jefferson article, they said he got $80 million at signing.
Yeah, they said $89.5 million at signing, due at signing. Yeah. But they also don't say that's a signing bonus.
So I'm imagining at signing is something different contractually than a signing bonus now.
Yeah.
I got to go talk to an NFL agent about this because I'm assuming that signing bonus and the guaranteed money at signing are different things, but I don't know how that works.
Because also the Justin Jefferson contract has $110 million in guarantees.
Total guaranteed in it, all throughout the
$90 million that's guaranteed at signing.
And
I don't know what that number is different because apparently now guaranteed doesn't mean guaranteed.
Which I'm like, hold on, so it's guaranteed at signing. What I get when I sign, right? I
have no idea. No, I read that as well, and I went, "What about this, Justin?" But everywhere you look, it's not mentioned yet. Somewhere that is always reported that there was $89.5 million due at signing with Justin Jefferson. I don't get it, but according to this, CeeDee Lamb has gotten the biggest
signing bonus for a receiver.
So he did get the biggest something.
He got that's guaranteed. That's guaranteed.
$100 million guaranteed, which is a good number.
That's a big chunk of change.
That's
because I think Justin Jefferson was what was it 110?
110.
His was 110 of his million. I think it was a 140 million dollar
Yeah.
contract. So yeah, I mean we talked about it. We knew that was going to be a sticking point. I think that's something that both you and I were adamant on. It's like, no, he's going to want a lot of guaranteed money. So the signing bonus reflects that. I don't know how much was due at signing. I got really got to talk to. I got to talk.
No
I got to talk
idea.
to an NFL agent because there's now we know that that's some legalese that some agent
Yes.
put in there or some team put in there. At signing is not the same thing as signing bonus.
Yeah.
And it's like, so what?
I don't
So
know.
anyway.
I had no idea what that means.
I have no idea. No, trust me. I say thing. I knew you were going to go down and say right. I was like, whoa. And I looked it up. And I was like, Adam Schefter said at signing
Yeah.
that Justin Jefferson got
No,
80.
we both did the
million.
same thing last night where we looked and we went, I wasn't wrong with what we reported because this is what's reported.
I saw it.
I see
read
it,
that.
and it's still posted. No one's changed
It's still
it.
posted.
Still
I emailed it to myself. I was like, no, I got to send it to myself. I screenshot it. I was like, Adam Schefter. I lined it up. I was like, Adam Schefter.
He said
same
both
guy.
things. What is he
He
talking
said
about?
both things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It definitely means something different. We just don't. We're ignorant to it. So I'll try to do some digging because it doesn't really say it in the articles. I'll try to ask like a real agent, like, hey, what's ad signing and what is signing bonus? What's the difference? Anyway, but he got the guaranteed money. I think the Cowboys are probably they probably wanted the fourth year. Something tells me that I bet if you could, ask the agents because they want shorter term deals to get to the market quicker, get back to the free agent market and get back to another contract negotiation. Cowboys want to lock him in longer. So I bet a fourth year also may have been a sticking point. Like, hey, if we're going to give you that kind of guaranteed money, we need another year.
Yeah. And I mean, and there's always the one thing the teams love is those not as guaranteed last year's. They just love them. They're just huge fans of them because they feel like they're winning it. You know what I mean? Like there's a feel like, well, we got him, but we don't have to keep him in year 4, but we got him if we want him. And it's kind of like a team option because you only have a certain amount guaranteed in that last year. But yeah, I definitely think the Cowboys at least wanted 4 years out of this. If you're going to pay him that big, unless you got screwed on the back end of the wide receiver market, which I don't think they did. You had to make this deal. You didn't end up paying 36 or 37 or something like that to make him the highest paid and have to give him everything else. We said it was going to be 2 out of 3. It was signing bonus and guaranteed money were really, really good. And then 34 is good. I mean, 34 is where, but it's $1 million more than we had him slotted at. We had him at 33. But I think the guaranteed was a little bit higher than I thought it would be. And the signing bonus is a little bit higher than I thought it would be. So if you look at both of those, then it makes sense. He got 2 out of the 3 big things that you want in a contract like that. The Cowboys get their guy back a week before the season, so he gets to come back in. I'm sure he's been working out. It's going to be a little rusty probably the first couple of weeks, but you got a long season. That'll be fine getting him back in.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's something they had to do. I mean, he last year was he was one of the top 2 or 3 best wide receivers in the game, period. I mean, he really was. His targets, he was first, receptions first, yards second, yards after the catch, first, receiving touchdowns second, receiving first downs second, longest reception was 92 yards. That was the longest in the league. His receiving percentage per target, second for wide receivers. He was third EPA per target, 100 plus yard receiving game, second, receiving yards per game, third. I mean, he was just a monster last season, and that Cowboys offense, it doesn't click without him. He's the catalyst. Teams he has gravity. They have to roll coverage, rotate coverage. He just annihilates one-on-one. You got to have I don't even know if there's a corner out there that could win against him for 4 quarters. I mean, you may win your fair share, but man, that dude's hard to lock down.
No, and I mean,
really is.
And you talk about the ripple effects of it, of now Brandon Cooks becomes a much better wide receiver because he's not having to go against, he is a wide receiver 2 now, and at wide receiver 2, Brandon Cooks is good. And, if you put Jalen Tolbert in wide receiver 3, then you thrive in that role. But if you move everybody up a role, it becomes harder and harder because now they're playing not in one-on-ones. They're getting double teamed, and it becomes a lot harder. Jake Ferguson's role will be like everybody benefits by having the big dog on the yard who can go out there and draw double coverage.
Yeah. And now how about this stat from the website, the 33rd? The total guaranteed money on wide receiver contracts signed this offseason, $1.2 billion. The wide receiver market. And now you officially have 5 wide receivers making $30+ million a year. Pretty soon, because of Brandon Ayuk and Jamar Chase, at one point, you'll have 7 probably within I don't know the calendar year, or probably before that. Definitely with Brandon Ayuk, you have before that. So it's not slowing down anytime soon. The wide receiver market, it's going to continue to blow up the way it is. So it's something the Cowboys have to do now. Dak is the next. He's the next domino here.
He is the next domino. And then the report that they're looking at Dalvin Cook is apparently the guy that they've brought in to look at it running back, where we've said they needed to bring in somebody and wait for roster cuts, which roster cuts are today. So if they're going to try and grab somebody off roster cuts, then you would assume they'd wait on Dalvin Cook. But I guess they want to know who they're going to keep at running back too. I don't know, but apparently they're meeting with him. I mean, I don't know. He had an awful last season.
Yes, I'm saying I don't necessarily. I mean, I think that's going to barely make a ripple. I mean, it's another body in there, another veteran presence in there. I would go trade for a running back if I were the Cowboys.
Well, and you could wait till again 3 p.m. today is cut day. There will be some other running backs cut. You could wait to see if somebody else is going to get dropped in this. Which there's normally like we can look at wide receivers. We know that Tim Patrick's going to get cut at wide receiver. It's a decent wide receiver, so you could find there may be somebody that gets dropped today that you can go in and go get, but I
want a difference maker though. I don't know if you're gonna get a difference maker. You can get somebody who's capable. I think you got to trade for a difference maker.
I do. Point. I agree with you. I like to see them do that. I think that's less likely at this point.
I don't disagree, but we still talk about the Dameon Pierce thing. They're still. Right, you know what? He could get cut, so that maybe you're right about that. Maybe they're waiting on a guy like that to get cut and go, hey man, we can pick him up pretty quickly. Like I said, I still think trading for one. Hell, call Chicago. Chicago's got. I didn't think about how many running backs.
They got Swift, Roschon, and Khalil Herbert is 3 I can think of off the top of my head.
Exactly, and they got a couple of other guys like in the mix, and I'm like. I don't know how much money all of them are making, but you don't want too much money devoted at the running back position. There's a lot of veterans. Hell, man, you could. I don't know. Call up Chicago. There are probably 3 teams like that probably have more starter caliber running backs than they need.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. But you're right. Dalvin Cook, I guess you can get excited. At least they're addressing the running back position.
At least they're looking at it. Yes. They're
not ignoring it.
They're at least looking at it, what you want to see. But yeah, the Dalvin Cook.
They look good though in running the ball last game. I will say that.
They did.
I think that's because of Trey Lance and him being a running quarterback. That helps.
And again, you're playing against third and fourth. You're not going up against defenses that are necessarily doing anything special to stop you.
No, I agree. But I'm just trying to throw out bright spots.
I think Deuce Vaughn made your decision harder.
I liked Deuce Vaughn the last couple of preseason games.
I think he made your decision a lot harder because before you could have just said. He
was like the most elusive of the Cowboys running backs, honestly, in the preseason.
I think before week 2 and 3 of preseason, you could easily say, well, Deuce Vaughn's going to go to the practice squad. No one's really going to pick him up. We'll be able to keep him on the practice squad for another year, and hopefully he'll develop, and we'll see where he's at. Now you don't know because is it change of pace back that somebody may be interested in of bringing in as a third guy that could do some different things. The big problem that they have with Deuce Vaughn is that they also have Kevontae Turpin in their similar type players. So it's weirder to have both of them because packages, you would use one, you can just use the other. And so where a team may want a Deuce Vaughn is basically the same place that a team uses Kevontae Turpin. So that is the one hang up about keeping him is that you have this other guy that you're supposed to be using. But, it's hard to keep Zeke, Deuce, and Dottle and not have another option there. That's where it's a lot harder for me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, and that's what they're doing, is getting another option. Like I said, that I'm not sure if Dalvin Cook's a difference maker, but I'll give the Cowboys credit for at least addressing the running back position. And we'll see what they do after the rosters are cut down, because you could have a couple of guys that they add, but like I said, I don't know if they're going to be difference makers for you. Yeah, and maybe they're not looking for that. Maybe they think their offensive line will be good enough where they'll need just a committee of running backs, and they'll be able to have some, semblance of a running game. They'll kind of moneyball it, if you will.
Now, I will say the memes are hilarious about Dalvin Cook and Zeke being on the same team, but other than that,
and what are they basically about? Washed up old running backs?
Yeah, they're posting up pictures of Emmitt Smith.
What year is it?
With Emmitt Smith on the Cardinals and Jerry Rice. At the end of their careers, and people just be like, "Man, what are you talking about? You can't have these guys. Both of them are washed.
Both of them. Yeah, I can say what year is it? Because if this was like I don't know 6 years ago, I'd be like, oh man,
killer.
it's,
That is an
right?
amazing
It's the
one
best
too.
backfield in the
Yeah.
NFL. But that's not the case for the running back position. Okay, yeah, there you go. So and CD gets his deal. I wonder what the timeline is on Dak. So strange that they're going to start the NFL season with Dak, a franchise quarterback,
Hey, they got a week.
on the last year. You're right. They got a week. That's true. They could end up getting it done.
I mean, we saw a CD. It was not
They're
close,
far
not close,
apart.
not
Yeah.
close. No comment. Done.
Yeah, it was like you're right. It was like Noah Lyles in the 100 meters. It was like not close, not close, not close, not close. Win.
We'll
Win
see
the race.
if Jerry does a Jerry move. He re-signs Dak during college football to try and steal headlines.
There's some people that basically think this, the CD Lamb negotiations came down to stealing some headlines. I mean, you're basically talking. Look what they are. They were 33, and then they went up to 34, and it was like, really? Did we really get stuck between 32 and a half? And you're like, all right, we'll go up $500,000. It's like, what? Just you knew you were gonna be here. You knew Jerry's savvy enough. We'll get into the Jerry Jones quote. He's savvy enough to know he was going to end up meeting him at 34 million, especially if they came into that meeting, right? And see these people like 34 million, man, right behind Justin Jefferson. We think he's the second best wide receiver in the league right now. Yeah, right behind Justin. And they gave all the numbers I just gave you. And he's one, or two, or one, or two, or one, or two, in all these statistical categories.
Yeah.
The Cowboys, and they said, right now we're at 32.5 million. They knew they were at one point going to go. If CeeDee Lamb people were stubborn, and the James Slater report indicates that they were. So they were there forever. Every time they came in, they were like 34 million. After the fifth or sixth time, the guy was going, all right, we'll go up $500,000. And they're like, 34 million, man. That's the number. If you don't meet that number, we're not even talking about the signing bonus. We're not talking about the guarantees. We ain't talking about none of that until you get to this 34 million per year. That's where we are. You meet us there. We'll talk about all the other, negotiables.
Trying to haggle in a Walmart, sir. I did not set the prices. The prices are set.
Yes, that's exactly right. Like you do. So my thing was, I think Jerry might be. He could be just crazy like a fox, just doing it to milk the headlines because he know it's drama. And what do I always say, about Jerry Jones, right? He wants a little bit of conflict because conflict creates storylines, right? That's what he wants. And villains create conflict, and sometimes he himself likes to be the villain with the fans. He knows y'all be going crazy. Why don't you just do this, Jerry? Why don't you do that? And that's why, the Jerry Jones quote even kind of reflects that. Let's get to the Jerry Jones quote a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was fake. And I think this comes off the criticism that he's gotten about how he's handled some of these deals. I think that's why. So I think he's reacting to the blowback from fans. So this is courtesy of Clarence Hill, of All Dallas, I believe is what it's called, but it's alldls.com. So it's worth it because Clarence Hill does a great job following the Cowboys. He says, this is Jerry Jones. He said, quote, I've done it all. So I have an ordinate amount of confidence that if anybody can figure out how to get this ish done, I can figure out how to get it done. I've been there every which way from Sunday, and I have busted my arse a bunch. And there's nobody living that's out cutting and shooting that can't give you a bunch of times they busted their arse. So hell no, there's nobody that could effing come in here and do all the contracts and be a GM any better than I can. Plus, I'm where the buck stops. When it F's up, I got to cover it. And so there you can't give anybody enough. Can't give. There's nobody can do it. Yeah. There you go. Oh, he actually went on to say, I effing have hundreds of bad days. I'm emotional about it sometimes. Well, running this thing, that's who I want to make the last call. Now, when I can't effing think, when I'm old and I can't even do it, but I'm a long way from not being able to do it too. The reason I don't let somebody else be GM is because I don't have anybody that I will let do it to actually do it right. And they're going to have to come to me. And because I know where it is and that you're going to pay for it. He said, if I didn't give an ish, if this wasn't fun for me to do or interesting for me to do, whatever you want to call, the facts are I really would rather be effing around like this. The point is, I love this, and you know I do. There you go.
Jerry.
That's Jerry Jones.
Jerry.
So he kind of went on like basically nobody can do this better than me with
Does
the
he-
Cowboys. Nobody, there's nobody that could effing come in here and do all the contracts and be a GM any better than I can. Boom. Suck it.
I just follow up and be
He
like,
said it.
and
That's what he
so why no Super Bowls? Why no NFC Championship games? Why you can't say you're the best and not be the best?
Hey, he just said it. He didn't say he was the best. He just said nobody
Nobody
there's
can do it
nobody
better.
that could effing come in here and do all the contracts and be a GM any better than I can. He said nobody can do it better than he can with the Cowboys.
That's debatable.
I with you. I think it's a bit delusional, honestly.
Yeah.
Because think about it, he got the job with the Cowboys with no general manager experience at all, no front office experience at all. Bought the team, made himself general manager, which he is. I can do. I mean, he can do that because he's the owner. But he had the most of his success early on in his tenure as owner and GM because he hired a football guy to take care of all the football stuff.
Yes.
So he can take care of all the marketing and the branding, which he's brilliant at doing all that stuff. But now that he's a seasoned veteran GM, you can argue the Cowboys are, as an organization, they're further and further away from their goal of being a championship like organization and a championship football team. And the deeper he is into the GM role, the further they are away from it. And it's been different quarterbacks, different head coaches, different teams. The only common denominator in the lack of success for the Cowboys in the last 2 decades, plus decades, is Jerry Jones. It's him.
It's unfortunate, but this is like you see this with people when they start to feel the pressure of everyone around them being like, it's time to step down, and the heels get dug in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not time to sit down. You're like, Jerry, you should still be very involved in a lot of things, but you need to start handing off more and more responsibilities so that you can really focus on the things that you're really good at. And I mean, if I'm Stephen Jones, I'm also not thrilled that he's like, nobody can do this. He's like, what, Dad?
Yeah. That's a great point. He said the reason I don't let somebody else be the GM is because I don't have anybody that I will let do it to actually do it right. So he's talking about Steven.
Don't trust Steven.
That's exactly right. That's whether he was doing that intentionally or unintentionally.
Because I'm guessing Steven's the one that keeps talking to him. Hey, just you doing okay today, Dad? And
yeah.
So I get it. It's unfortunate. That is always uncomfortable, But yeah, that sounds much more. That doesn't sound like the Jerry Jones of confidence. Jerry Jones. That sounds like Jerry Jones. Like you take this from my cold dead hands.
I mean, that's like I said, I've never heard him. He always gives you great quotes, but this seemed like one where he had some, like, obviously some exclamation marks and a lot of expletives thrown in there to start it off. Right, so I have an inordinate amount of confidence that if anybody can figure out how to get this ish done, I can figure out how to get it done. So he's brought up his age too, right? He brought up his age in the quote and said basically that I'm not there yet. Here he says, here it is. Now, when I can't effing think, when I'm old and I can't even do it, but I'm a long way from not being able to do it too. So he addressed everything. Everybody thinks he's incompetent at the job, and everybody thinks he's too old for the job, and that he's not a great deal maker and all that. I just think he's lashing back at the kind of the blowback and the backlash that the Cowboys fans have had this year. So there you go, Jerry Jones, letting y'all all know.
Jerry Jones is gonna start kicking young people out of the building.
No, that's a good quote. Like I said, I thought it was fake. That's not.
I'm with you. I thought that one was fake too. And I was like,
fake.
There's no way. Give me the audio. Let me hear him say it.
you know what? That's coming out. People are looking for that audio now. They're like, oh, I
Yeah.
got to hit this. If he's dropping F-bombs like this and talking like this, no, we got to do that and put some 50 Cent behind it or something. Because it sounds like right. It sounds like a beat. It sounds like a rap beef or something. That's like he's like just going off on people here. So hey, we'll see. We'll see if we can find it up, but we can find that and scrounge it up. All right, we come back. Let's go behind the burn orange curtain. Talk some Texas football. We're going to hear from Steve Sarkisian, the head coach, and we'll talk about the Texas versus Colorado State matchup coming up this weekend. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation and go behind the burnt orange curtain. Later on the show, we'll dive into Texas, Colorado State. We'll break down the matchup a little bit. But behind the burnt orange curtain, I want to get into Sark's media availability. He has a weekly press conference, the start of his mini weekly press conferences he'll have this season on Monday, and we'll always hear from the head coach on Tuesday. And here is Steve Sarkisian talking about their upcoming opponent this weekend, the Colorado State Rams.
But the coolest thing is we get to play football again, and we're excited for it. We've got a very tough opponent. Coach Norvell has done a really good job of building that program back up at Colorado State. They were, I know that 5-7 last year, but there was a lot of close games that could have went either way. They've got a very explosive offense that likes to throw the ball around, a dynamic receiver in Torrey Horton, as well as him being a kick returner, a veteran offensive line with a couple grad transfers, a very veteran defense with two really good safeties, all conference safeties that have played a lot of football, and a very intricate special teams unit. Very well coached team. They tax you mentally as well as tax you physically. And this is going to take a great week of preparation from our players, not only physically, but mentally, because they're going to get challenged in all three phases.
All right, start talking about the Rams. And here's start talking about what he wants to see. What's the emphasis in week one as a coach? What do you want to see and prioritize more than anything else? Here's Sark.
Yeah, I think one of the keys is you try to minimize the self-inflicted wounds in week one. And what are those? False starts, illegal formations, defensive, lining up in the neutral zone, jumping off sides. You try to minimize the penalties in the special teams game, right? The blocks in the backs, the holds. You try to minimize the substitution errors. You want to have 11 guys on the field. You don't want to get stuck with 12 or 10 and having to waste timeouts. Naturally, you want to tackle as best you can. We try to tackle to get our guys ready, but you can never do it enough. But to take care of both sides, this is what you have to do. So you're always looking for, how are we tackling? Are we bringing our feet? And then for me, the biggest thing that I'm looking for now more than ever is our ability to play a lot of players, especially in the first half of this game. And, I know, like we have a two deep, when in reality, our ones are our twos and our twos are our ones. And so getting all those guys involved in the game and seeing the comfort level maybe of some of our younger players, then getting them more comfortable as the game goes on, I think is important for us as well.
Speaking of that, too deep in that depth chart, Sark was asked, is the depth chart set now? Do you know exactly who your ones, twos, and threes are at this point?
No, we always, week one for us, we always leave it open. Again, because I think a lot of guys, there's still growth to be had. And I think this week, and as always early in the season, because we play so many players early in the season and now more than ever, if you're in the two deep, you're playing in the first half, and then if you're a three, there's a good chance that you could play, especially at specific positions. And so it's more about who's going to go on the field first, but they're all going to play. And so I try to keep that open in week one so that guys can continue to show their development, their improvement from week to week to week. And this is an important week for a lot of our younger players to continue to develop.
All right. I imagine they'll have it by Michigan, though. I mean, you want to have that set pretty much by the Michigan. And by the way, it might change in the Michigan game in terms of who starts. These teams, Colorado State and Michigan, are so drastically different in their brands of football that they want to play. Colorado State's going to be an air raid. Michigan's going to be a power football team, a lot of power sets, 21 personnel, 22 personnel, 12 and 13 personnel with multiple tight ends on the field, fullback on the field. They'll just be a little bit different. So you'll be starting probably different players defensively just to match up. But anyway, speaking of matching up with Torrey Horton is going to be the Longhorns, I think, biggest problem to solve, because Torrey Horton is an NFL caliber receiver, one of the best receivers in the country. And the Longhorns will have a test, especially with a team that wants to be a pass-happy team. They'll try to funnel usage to this guy. He's probably one of the only players, in my opinion, that can play at Texas right now. Here's Sark talking about how you corral Torrey Horton.
Yeah, I think it's with him, first of all, where is he lining up? The guy, they move him around a fair amount. And then having the ability to win at the top of routes against him. He's got good length. And then you got to get him on the ground. And as much as getting him on the ground when we're on defense, we've got to get him on the ground when he's returning kicks too. We've got to get him on the ground because when he can open his stride up and get in the open field, he can run away from you. And so I think it's going to be important that we get multiple hats to the ball, not just with him, but with everybody. We've got to play with amazing effort defensively. We've got to swarm the football with the understanding that we might miss some tackles in week one. And, well, it's okay sometimes to miss as long as 2, 3, and 4 tacklers are showing up, right after that. And so that just goes back to effort. And so that's why we always try to critique effort first to make sure that our guys are playing with that fanatical effort that's needed for us defensively.
Yeah, Sark calls it populating the football. We used to call it party at the football. One guy can miss a tackle, but if you got 3, 4 dudes who are, partying at the football, making sure that they're hustling, got good angles to the football. One missed tackle won't kill you, but if one missed tackle and there's nobody else around, then that's when you get those yak yards. Longhorns don't want to give up. Let's get to some discussion about the running game. Sark was asked about the running backs, the loss of C.J. Baxter, the loss of Christian Clark. Now the running back room seems to have more kind of perimeter-oriented backs, speed-oriented backs. And Sark was asked about whether there's going to be more power, run game, basically. They're going to be running in between the tackles, even with this group. Here's Sark's response.
We're going to run it between the tackles. They learn how to run when the day they show up here. 3 years ago, I couldn't have said that about Jaden Blue, but he's been an understudy to Bijan Robinson, Roshan Johnson, Jonathan Brooks, and he's more than capable. Trey Wisner, Jarrett Gibson. I mean, all these guys. When we go to team run, we're a physical football team, and we believe in running the ball. We believe in stopping the run, and inevitably, you learn how to run our style. And then we accentuate that with the perimeter plays and different things with the running back. So they're going to run between the tackles and they'll do great.
There you go. Sark said, hey, we're gonna run in between the tackles. I don't give a damn how small they are. All right, this is part of what they do. So I'm glad he was so matter of fact about that one. He also was asked about the red zone strategy and how they intend to improve in the red zone. And that's something that we've talked about all offseason. So I'm sure Sark has been down the rabbit hole this offseason. It might have been his big project this offseason to figure out how can Texas improve in the red zone. 120th in touchdown percentage in the red zone a year ago. Considering where they were in 2021 when Sark first got here, they were at top 5 touchdown percentage in the red zone offense and red zone offense. And this year they dropped down to 120th and 90th in those categories. Here's Sark discussing what red zone strategies that they may deploy to try to improve in that area.
I think the first part in the red area, we when you analyze it, we have to do a better job of not stubbing our own toe in the red area. False starts, penalties, negative plays. Our efficiency rate in the red area is drastically improved when we just continue to move the ball forward. And so that's the first part that we've made a huge point of emphasis on, of having the right mental intensity when we get into those situations to really play clean football and execute what we're trying to get done. Now, when it comes down to the red area, sometimes it's making the right call at the right time. Sometimes it comes down to making a play. Sometimes it comes down to the runner making that last guy miss that tackle. There's always kind of that extra hat the closer to the end zone you get. You're going to have to make some contested catches. The field shrinks there. But I do have confidence in our players' ability to go do that. I think we've got great schemes. Now we have to go do it. From a receiver standpoint, time will tell, as we go. A lot of these guys are going to play. We're going to play a lot of receivers, especially early in the season, and finding that rhythm and that rapport, and especially that rotation of players as we go. But I definitely have the utmost confidence in all those guys. It's just finding the right rhythm. And naturally, there's certain guys that the ball finds them. I used to say this a lot about Devontae Smith when we had him. The ball would find Devontae. It wasn't like we had to design plays for him a lot of the times. There's other players that sometimes you have to design plays for them to make sure that they get their touch. And that every year kind of takes on a life of its own. And so that's something we're going to have to monitor early in the season of who's the ball find naturally. And then who do we have to make sure that we design a few things for early in games to make sure that they get involved and get their touches.
I do love the end of that quote, that the ball naturally finds some guys and there are other guys I need to scheme open. He's right about, and that could be Quinn's rapport and chemistry with that player. It could just be that guy's, he takes a huge leap in improvement and just becomes a guy that is indefensible in certain situations. So it's a lot of things. It may be one guy just really fits well into the scheme because you got 3 transfers in Bond, Bowden, and Golden, and maybe one guy just is a perfect scheme fit. And he just really finds his place and his role in the offense really, really well. So I love that he's going to let it happen organically. The offense, like if one guy just starts to, be really, really productive, he's not going to fight that and he's not going to force that. But then the guys who aren't necessarily being maximized within the offense, then he's going to get to, scheming those guys up and get innovative ways to get those guys to football. So I actually love that approach from Sark because you got so much talent there. Don't force it. Let it happen naturally. It will. I mean, no, organically guys will step up, and whether it's because they play well in the games or because Quinn has a great chemistry with him, I think that'll happen. So red zone offense, if red zone offense improves, this offense actually, which last year was still one of the top 20 best offenses in the country, it could take a huge step forward. And if they improve in third down offense, Texas probably average right around 70. Third in the country, 70th in the country the last couple of years. Here is start talking about the improvement that could be made in third down offense and on money downs.
Kind of similar to the red area, where I felt like we were in way too many third and long situations a year ago. And part of that is because of some self-inflicted wounds. Too many false starts, too many, penalties or negative plays that knocked us back. And the conversion rate is just not good when it's 3rd and 7 plus. It's just not good. It's not good for anybody. And when those are the bulk of your conversion plays, we need to be better there. We need to move those numbers into 3rd and 5s and 3rd and 4s. On the flip side, we need to be better in the kind of that 3rd and 2 to 3 range. Our execution's got to improve. And so how do we rectify it? I'm a solution oriented guy. We got to minimize the self-inflicted wounds. And then we got to make sure that we're really dialed in the execution component from that 3rd and 2 to 4 type range to where those should be a high completion or conversion rate. And we weren't quite as high as where we need to be in that phase.
All right. There's Steve Sarkisian talking about third down offense. In this last cut, before we get to the break, Texas did add a grad transfer at the running back position because the injury bug has hit that room pretty hard, losing 2 running backs for the season, down to 3 scholarship running backs. But now you have grad transfer Velton Gardner. Here's Sark talking about the process of acquiring Velton Gardner and also what he brings to the table.
Yeah, so Velton Garner has joined us from SMU as a grad transfer. He was a guy that we had to wait to see if he was going to graduate and if he could get it all done. And he really kind of fits the mold of the style of backs we have right now. A really versatile guy, natural running ability, very good hands out of the backfield. So I think that the transition for him coming to our system fits well and bodes well with kind of the other 3 guys, with the addition of Ryan Niblett doing some things for us back there as well. So he just kind of fits the mold. And so it's an easy transition for us and for him. Obviously he's got a lot of experience, and he's a veteran player that way. So glad we were able to do that. And I know everybody keeps wanting to complain about the transfer portal, but I'm one that's going to say, glad we have it. We were able to get a free agent here right before the season. So.
Described as a free agent too. I like that. And talking about Ryan Niblett in the backfield. So still bringing in some manufactured depth there. That's a nice little nugget being dropped back there for Sark. So the running back position, I mean, I think they feel confident they have enough options and possibilities back there, and then they'll see what Jaden Blue becomes. I think expectations are really high that he could be 1,000-yard guy for you, but then his role is going to change, and then the role of Trey Wisner behind him, and so forth and so on. All right, let's get to the break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the topic for the Big Fat Poll today, and we'll get into the musically themed day of the week right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn.
Back on the Rodcast here on a Tuesday morning, and that means it's a top of the charts Tuesday where I'll play music that was number one this day in history, starting off with some Rolling Stones. Let's get to the big fat poll of the day. Text line's open, 512-447-3776, and we'll get this posted up on X at the Horn ATX.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the Day on the Horn.
All right, big fat poll of the day today, talking Texas still. Going to keep it with the Texas theme for most of this week. We just heard a little bit of a Sark talk about running between the tackles, still running the football, what they had with Velton Gardner, Ryan Niblett back in the running game. So let's talk about the running game for Texas and ask you the question today. How many rushing yards will Texas have against Colorado State? How many rushing yards will Texas have against Colorado State? Now, I'll give you a couple of markers to give you an idea of what they did last year in non-conference. Non-conference, they had 158 rushing yards as a team against, and these are all net, but 158 net yards against Rice. They had 107 against Alabama, which was their low for the entire season. and then they had 185 against Wyoming.
Hmm.
So those are your non-conference. Didn't break 200 in the non-conference. They broke 200 3 times in the season. They had over 200 against Kansas State. And then their two biggest games were Texas Tech at the end of the season. They had 302 yards in that game rushing. And against Kansas, they had 336 yards. That was a big game where Jonathan Brooks had over 200 yards rushing just himself. So that was so they had two games where they broke 300 last year. They had another game where they broke 200. And then your non-conference, they were in that 150 to 200 range for the two against Rice and Wyoming that you would judge more what this game will be like. So I'll give you the places that I'm going to put you at for the rushing. We'll give you the first one is 0 to 99. So double digits, not triple digits. And we'll say 100 to 149, 150 to 199, and 200 plus.
Yeah, right now I'm in the 100 to, I'm probably in the 150 range, right around there. I need to go a little bit over, so I'll go 150 to 200.
Okay, so you're going to go 150 to 200. I think that'll probably win it. That's the most.
150 to 200.
Yeah. And it's the question of, do they run the ball more because they just want to get their guys some work and they want to push the ball and they want to control the clock and they don't necessarily want to show off a ton, or do they want to salvage their backs and throw the ball more? And it's going to be Quinn's team, and that's the outlook. So maybe it'll go down to that 100 to 149. I don't think it goes under 100 against Colorado State, but
no. The thing that can throw it off is if Jaden Blue breaks a big run. If he's breaking big runs, then you could easily end up in a 200-yard category. Because I think they're going to take those guys out pretty. I would take them out earlier, sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Once the game is in, when the game is in hand, the running back position is top priority when you in terms of, making sure that you prioritize bubble wrapping or safeguarding against injury. So I imagine that big lead, Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner are out, right? Out. That's why if I'm up, 3-4 touchdowns, I'm sorry, yeah. Jaden Blue, and honestly, I get up 3 touchdowns. Jaden Blue's probably out, and I get up anything over 3 touchdowns. Trey Wisner's out too, and I'll let the other guys handle it. I'll let Velton Gardner. I'll let him handle it. Jerry Gibson. You said Ryan Nibbler's back there. Let's give him some run.
Nibble back there.
The walk on.
Yeah, Cole is it?
Yeah, I can't. I apologize. I can't think of his name right now. Yeah, I'll give it to him. I would not take the chance on now your 2 top backs getting hurt in that game.
No, especially not in a second half when you just don't need them to be out there.
No, yep.
You know what they are.
First sign of a big lead, those guys are out.
Yeah,
and that's why I don't know if you'll have. Because I think that's how it's going to happen. And once those guys come out, you'll lose that explosivity in the run game. So then you'll just be churning out yards, kind of 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Not saying the other guys won't be breaking it, but not as likely as, Jaden Blue or Trey Wisner.
Yeah, Jaden Blue is your most likely to bust a 60, 70-yard run.
Yes.
And pump that odds up, pump that total number up really high.
Yeah, that'd be 650 yards of your 180 yards.
Yeah.
That's whatever it is, 150 yards. So I think that's a big. He could do that. He could do that early in the game, though. He could do that in the first half. He does that a couple of times, then okay, then you're talking about a 200-yard performance all throughout the game. So I think they're gonna pull him early, though. I would be very careful with the backs in this matchup. If I was Texas.
Yeah. And I mean, I would have changed what the numbers were that I was going to put out, because I would have assumed that they would, that it would be a little bit more just off of just assumption of, well, they're going to, run them up and they'll be fine. But looking at that Rice and Wyoming game, you went, okay, they're under 200 in both of those. Only 158 in Rice last year in the first game of the season. So it was not like they were just running the ball the whole second half and slowing things down. They didn't do that necessarily against Rice. So there's no reason to believe that in this game they're going to do that either. They may continue to throw the ball. If you put out some different quarterbacks, if we know that he was asked about if Arch would play in the first half, and he just said, we'll see.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, you're right about that. It was a 1 second. I think it was a 1 second that we'll see. But he smiled. He smiled.
He was laughing, but he just goes, we'll see.
Smiling and laughing. So I think that means, yes, we're going to see. We definitely going to see Arch.
Because, it was a follow-up on, you said basically everyone in the 2 deep will play in the first half.
Everybody.
So if Arch is on the 2 deep,
Arch is going to play.
So that was the question.
Yeah.
But if they put you into that, then you're probably going to trust Arch to throw the ball around a little bit more too. You're going to want to get him some work in game. So if you say maybe we don't necessarily want to run the ball the entire, because we don't want to just put Arch in to hand the ball off, we'd like to see him get some work, and some of these other receivers get a little bit of work. And I like your theory of yesterday too, showing Michigan some things that they may have to look at and go, do we have to prepare for 2 quarterbacks?
Yeah, just weird stuff. I agree. I get funky a couple of times in this game just to give Michigan something to think about, something to a ghost to chase, which a lot of coaches will do, thinking, "Oh man," because Sark actually has revealed. I remember that was, it was actually the 2022 season. Was it New Mexico? I forgot who they played early on. And I forget. And Sark claimed that Andre Carrick in that 6-0 line package, the only reason they used it because they were trying to manufacture some depth at tight end. I thought to myself, that's not true.
Oh, I remember that.
It makes no sense at all. I was like, they got tight end depth. What is he talking about? Right? Remember that? And then then he broke it out in the Bama game. Yes. It was like one of their packages. So because he wanted to kind of troubleshoot it a little bit in that game. And I was like, that's not true. And it wasn't true. He is actually something that he wanted to tinker with and then unveil it pretty much versus Bama. So there are some times where you can get some hints, some clues. But because of that, I would feed some misinformation in this game plan a little bit. A little misinformation for Michigan. Why not?
Like it.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff there. Well, how many rushing yards will the Longhorns have versus Colorado State? Speaking of Colorado State, they put out their depth chart. So we'll talk about Colorado State on the other side and preview Texas' first matchup of the season. We'll dive into that coming back right here on the Horn. It's the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming right back. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is, of course, a top of the charts Tuesday, one of my favorite musically themed days of the week. And that's when Patrick plays jams that reached the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. Yeah, there you go. This is actually a cool. I've heard this on like movies and TV shows,
Yeah.
but I don't think I've ever actually heard it. Anybody jamming the song.
I mean,
but
it's some
I've heard
yacht
it.
rock.
Yeah, because yeah, there you go. Which my man Craig Wade, it's like his favorite genre of music is yacht rock. Love him some yacht rock. But yeah,
he's got some Looking Glass somewhere. That's the name of the band, Looking Glass. I bet he's got some on vinyl.
No, he goes to like yacht rock concerts and everything. Man. Like Craig Wade's a real big fan. Him and his lovely wife, big fans of the yacht rock. All right, we'll get to the whole headlines here, but we'll also start to preview Texas versus Colorado State. They released their depth chart, so we'll dive into depth chart, talk about the really some of the good players that the Colorado State has. We'll get into the offense, but dive into some of the defense as well. And I think that's something that we didn't get into yesterday that could be the biggest factor actually in this matchup between Texas and Colorado State. So we'll get into that as well. We got Rod's rant coming up a little bit later on in the show. We'll get into Rod's rant. We'll talk a little bit about some an NFL trend. We'll get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets coming up a little bit later on. And also there are some other holdouts actually that we've been talking about the CeeDee Lamb contract so much, but we haven't talked a lot about some of the other big holdouts in the NFL. Trent Williams, actually, it was announced for the 49ers. He is now holding out officially until he gets a new contract. So until his contract status is settled, he's not going to camp. That's honestly, I don't know if there's a bigger loss for the 49ers. No, seriously. I mean, even with Christian McCaffrey, you can make the argument nobody on that team is more important than Trent Williams.
I mean, that O-line did not look good with him out last year.
They are not good without him. he's so good that it allows them to manipulate other things on the offensive line because he needs no help, and he's like a mountain of a man by himself, whether in the run game or the passing game. So we'll get into that a little bit too, because the 49ers, that's pretty bleak, and they have to sign Brandon Ayuk too. I mean, now Brandon Ayuk, I imagine he wants something close to CD. Is he right behind CD? Is he getting 33 million?
I'd say he's still in that 31 to 32, maybe 30, 32, maybe.
I love it. 31, 32,
maybe
32 and a half.
I think he's, I get that you have to go up a little bit more than Amon-Ra now, probably, but he's still not like there's 3 top wide receivers in the league: Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and CeeDee Lamb. And then there's everyone behind them. And Tyreek Hill, 4. So Tyreek Hill's in there, but 5, there's 4, and then everybody else is behind that. So you can say those 4 guys can get paid what they're going to get paid, and then everybody else has to be slotted behind those 4.
Yeah, the Jamar Chase would have the argument that because he's got 2 years left on his deal, so that's going to be a little tougher. But you're right, when they officially want to sign him, he's got a cheap owner though. I don't know if he's cheap, but he's the only owner that's not worth $1 billion. So I don't know if I want to say he's cheap. He's not.
History would tell you he is.
Yes, they would. But if you're not worth $1 billion, all these guaranteed money contracts and everything, I mean, that's not as easy.
No,
it's not as easy to swallow as like some of the guys who are worth 10,
and you just paid a quarterback.
And you just paid a quarterback. Well, so you got to pay Jamar Chase, and I think Jamar Chase wants the top of the market money. Now, and I don't think he wants Justin Jefferson money, but I think now they're looking at CeeDee Lamb, and he's going to say, "Man, I think I deserve what CeeDee Lamb gets." And compare their resumes, or whoever. No, if Brandon Ayuk may push this market if he ends up getting CeeDee Lamb kind of money, like you said, then that'll be Jamar Chase going, "Oh, he got CeeDee Lamb money, then I got to get Justin Jefferson money. I just got to be right there."
Yeah, I imagine
34.8.
Jamar Chase will want to be the highest in one thing. So if CeeDee Lamb was now the highest signing bonus, is what they're saying. Then he'll want the highest guaranteed, or he wants 36.
Guaranteed for the only ownership that's not worth $1 billion.
I'm just telling you.
Other than the Packers, I guess are it's a different model.
But that's if he's going to get one of the, you're going to get something if he wants to be the highest of one of those.
That's a good point. Yeah, I guess that you could guarantee him that, but I don't. That's a great point. I don't know if they're
like 115 to guarantee him or something like that.
Yeah, no doubt, because Justin Jefferson was 110
Yeah.
115 is a lot. And what's the contract going to be like a 138 to 130? I mean, I don't know where he'd be slotted, but
Yeah.
to have 115 of it guaranteed, I mean, it could happen. Like I still don't we still have talked about the at signing and the signing bonus,
Still
and we're
no
not
idea.
sure
No.
contractually how that works. We know it's some loophole that the agents have worked out on the teams. Just not sure how that has worked out. But you're right. He did get the largest CeeDee Lamb, the largest signing bonus ever for a wide receiver. But Justin Jefferson got 80 plus million at signing, and he got the most guaranteed money in the total life of the contract with 110 million, I believe it is, of the 140 million. So either way, wide receiver position is a good position to be in right now. All right, if you are top, and I still that Nico Collins contract right now looks so good. If he's bumped out in the top 10 now, he's out. I don't think he's in the top 10 anymore.
I don't think so.
Highest paid wide receivers. I think he gets bumped out. Actually, I think he was.
He didn't even get to play in a regular season game.
No, you're right about it. He did not. not in the top 10.
Before the season actually started, he got all the way bumped out.
That's a great deal by Nick Caserio. It really is. That's a phenomenal deal by him. All right, yeah, the great value. All right, well, we'll get into some of the NFL news, notes, and nuggets, but of course, it's going to be a lot of Texas versus Colorado State because it's time to get ready for that matchup. It is game week, but before we dive into game week conversation and look at the Colorado State depth chart and talk about their potential game plan versus the Longhorns, let's get educated, updated, and informed on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros dropped the first game of their series with the Phillies 3-2 in extra innings last night. The Astros took a 2-run lead in the fourth on a Shea Whitcomb double, but gave up runs in the fifth and sixth innings to leave the game tied heading into extra innings. The Astros couldn't get the runner home from second, and Bryce Harper got a single in the bottom of the 10th, sending the winning run home. Justin Verlander will get his second start returning from injury today as the Astros look to even the series. And the Rangers begin their series with the league-worst Chicago White Sox, hoping to make a last-ditch effort at a run for the playoffs. Andrew Heaney gets the start for the Rangers against Garrett Crochet, who has been one of the only bright spots for the White Sox this season. And over in the NFL, the Cowboys finally came to terms with CeeDee Lamb on a 4-year, $136 million extension yesterday. The deal will reportedly include $100 million in guarantees and a $38 million signing bonus. The Cowboys are also reportedly meeting with free agent running back Dalvin Cook in Dallas as final roster cuts are due today. That is your Horn headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. We appreciate those. All right. Let's get into some Colorado State discussion. We'll also, there's a lot of Sark sound that we didn't get to. So we can get to some of that as well in Raj Rant. There's some Sark sound. It's really some good stuff that we had not had a chance to get to in the behind the burnt orange curtain segment. So we'll hear the rest of that Sark audio too. So we'll cram as much as we can in to the next hour. All right, let's get into the depth chart that was released by Jay Norvell and Colorado State for the Texas game. Braden Fowler Nicolosi, as we talked about, that's their starting quarterback. We've talked about how he's a high risk, high reward player. Guy has at least had 16 interceptions last season. I mean, he had, I believe it was 6 games where he had multiple interceptions in. So he's a bit of a gunslinger. I expect him to lower that risk element in his game this season. But I mean, he's got some talent. Over 3,400 passing yards, 22 touchdowns. It is a heavy, heavy pass offense. I mean, they were top 20 last season in top 20 passing attack, top 20 in passing yards per game, passing attempts. They're a top 10 team in passing attempts. They throw the football a ton. And they're not going to change that versus Texas. They're going to throw it. They have a really weak running game, so it'll be about how you can affect Braden Fowler Nicolosi. And they do a good job of insulating him, and they do a good job of putting basically him in positions where the ball is going to come out quickly. So he's insulated in his pass protection. And this is one of the reasons why, guys, they were one of the best pass protection units in college football. I mean, they only allowed, I believe it was 14 sacks last season. And you think for a team that threw the football a lot, that, teams will be able to get to them more often. But that offensive line last year was adequate, but I think also it's more the system. The system allows them to get the ball out quickly. So this will be the conundrum for Texas a bit, right? How do you, the ball's coming out so quickly. Yes, you got great edge defenders who have great BGO. I was talking to my man Stevie Lee about this, lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee about this yesterday. You can have the BGO. I think speed rush is going to be for Texas a huge upgrade this year with Trey Moore. That's one of his elite tools. Colin Simmons is going to be another good speed rusher for you, depending on when you put Anthony Hill out there on the edge as another good speed rusher for you. You still have some guys who can bull rush and use more power in their repertoire of pass rushing moves. But I just think the guys who have the BGO, they'll be able to affect the game the best in this particular matchup, because he gets rid of a boy's average time to throw last season, 2.6 seconds. They say you have to make a quarterback pretty much hold on to the ball for more than 2.5 seconds to have a chance to get there, but he's right on the verge. I mean, he had several games where he's right around 2.5 seconds. So if the ball's coming out 2.6 seconds, only the guys with the really, really elite BGO ball get off are going to be able to get there and affect the quarterback. So I almost wonder strategically, are you thinking, hey, I got to have more my speed rushers out there? Does that mean you're going to see a little bit more of, a young Colin Simmons early on in the rotation? Obviously Trey Moore. I would start Trey Moore in this game against these guys because they want to throw the football and you need speed rushers. Like I said, it's average time to throw 2.6 insulates him in pass protection. And that's why they only, I think 11, 12 teams in college football allowed fewer sacks than them. And they threw the ball a lot, top 10 in passing attempts. So he's good at sensing pressure too. His pressure to sack percentage is 9.4%. I mean, that's much better than Quinn's. Quinn's pressure to sack numbers last season around 25%, according to Pro Football Focus. His pressure to sack number 24%. So he actually kind of feels the pressure. When I talk about quarterbacks feeling the pressure and not seeing it, he feels the pressure really well, but he gets rid of football. So how do you, and I think the other thing for the guys who can't get there because they don't have the BGO, the speed rush to get there, when you don't necessarily penetrate or you're not collapsing the pocket, got to get your hands up and you got to have an internal clock to know, all right, 2.6 seconds, right before 3 seconds. If I'm not, if I hadn't beat my blocker yet, and I'm not penetrating or collapsing this pocket via bull rush, then I got to get my hands up, and I have to find a way to clog that passing window. So I think that's also the training. It's either the speed rush and you found a way to beat your guy really quickly, or if you don't, then get your hands up because the ball's coming out, especially if it's passing, the ball's coming out. So that's something to touch to and something we didn't really talk about, but they're really good in pass protection, but they're going to have most of their veteran presence on the offensive line, which I think we'll get to here and talk about the depth chart. It's in the interior. When we talked about this, you go look at their center, Jacob Gardner. He's kind of the star. He started 45 games. So that guy's seen a lot of football, 6'4", 300. The other right guard, Drew Moss, he started 34 games, a lot of starts. That's a lot of experience. He's a senior. Jacob Gardner, I believe, is a junior, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, he's a senior too. But Jacob Gardner and Drew Moss, so guys are veterans, 34 and 45 starts between them. And then there's the left guard, Alex Foster. He's got 17 starts under his belt. And so those are, I think that's the strength of the team is that interior. They do have Savion Henderson, who's got 32 starts at left tackle, and then a right tackle, 0 starts, Alex Karras. So they got some experience especially in that interior of that offensive line with a lot of guys who play together for a while. Wide receiver, and I think that's, if they want to run the ball, I think that's where they're going. I said that before. If they want to run the ball, you want to run if you are – now they're not good at running the ball. They're a bottom 20 rushing team in the country. But if you want to run the ball at Texas, the ideal is you're going to run at that uncertainty, those question marks in the interior, where they brought in reinforcements via the transfer portal with Sevilla and Bill Norton. They brought in all these guys because the loss of Tavondre Sweat, the loss of Byron Murphy brings up a lot of question marks, and they still haven't necessarily proven themselves. And that's a strength for this team. And I think if Colorado State wants to run the ball, they will lean on their strengths. So they may decide interior runs is where they want to go. Because Texas speed on the outside will allow them to set the edge, and they can. I mean, there's no way I see Colorado State's running game beating Texas to the corner or beating Texas to the perimeter or to the edge. Not going to happen. So, wide receiver, they're starting Torrey Horton, of course, Armani Winfield. We talked about Armani Winfield, who was once committed to Steve Sarkisian and then decommitted and ended up committing to Baylor. He's going to be one of their starting wide receivers, 6'2", 205. They got also Dylan Goffney, excuse me. He's got 13 starts, 6'2", 210. He's the other wide receiver. Torrey Horton's the star. This dude is an NFL player. There's no doubt about it. 6'2", about 180, 190 potentially, but he can burn. His average top speed, nearly 22 miles per hour. That's fourth best, by the way, in college football. He's great after the catch when he gets the ball in his hands, 575 yards after the catch, 11th most in college football, fourth most receiving yards over the last 2 years in all of the FBS, only behind Romeo Dunze, Malik Neighbors, and Marvin Harrison Jr. Yep, those names sound familiar. 23 forced missed tackles last year. Dude's a stud. And does most of his damage in the short to intermediate area. And if you go look at it, second best short receiving grade by Pro Football Focus in the country. 575 of his 1,100 receiving yards were under 10 yards. Elite trait is basically his speed, but he's actually a decent run blocker too. The deep ball, that's probably where he needs to improve. Probably needs to improve in some of his I think in his like contested catch ability as a player, because he's got some of the size, or maybe they just don't showcase that enough because everything is underneath. But he was only 5 of 27 on deep balls, and he lines up in the same place all the time. 75% of the time, he lines up 75% of the time out wide, and most of the time it's to the right of the formation. I want to see them move him around a little bit more, and I bet that'll be the tendency breaker in this game versus Texas. They'll move him around more to try to hunt a matchup, and I think also they'll throw it deep more. You got to have a tendency breaker if you want to try to win a big game, or at least shell shock a team that's way better than you and has a huge talent advantage. And I think that's, if you're Colorado State, now you got to have time to throw it deep, a little bit of time. And if they get some and they get the right matchup, I think they'll be, I think very calculating about when they want to do it. But I do believe you'll get some deep shots when they'll try to take their chances in one-on-ones if they get it. And I do believe, especially if Texas tries to play straight up first, I think they should try to rotate and take him out of the game initially, because nobody else really. Now, Armani Winfield's a good player, but he hasn't proven it at the college level. This guy's already proven he's dangerous. I would initially take him out. Not take him out like in a dirty way, but like take him out, like neutralize him as a threat, meaning double cover him, roll coverage his way, put a linebacker underneath him, and force somebody else to beat you. Now, some coaches believe play it straight up and see if your guys can just beat him straight up. I don't believe in that. Now, when you only got one threat, there's no running game, quarterback's not a dual threat, there's no other passing threat really that's a proven commodity. Why would you even allow them to get anything going with the D and make an adjustment? Nope, I'll take him out first play. Nope, we putting a safety over there. You good? Now I want you to play bump and run on them. We'll put a safety over the top of you. Don't worry about getting beat deep. We got you on the deep. Take away out underneath, because 575 of his 1,100 receiving yards are on throws under 10 yards. I mean, basically, a lot of his game is just the slant routes. And I told you how bad Texas was defending slants last year and inside breaking routes. 9.5 yards per attempt allowed, over 20% explosive play rates on inside breaking routes, over damn near 50% conversion rate on money downs. That was a weakness for the Texas secondary. But the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams house, Cardi B's house, Megan Thee Stallion's house. But when they started playing more bump and run on the field and the boundary side against Tech, against Oklahoma State, even against Washington, they took away some of those easy completions, but they gave up the deep ball, right? Took away the easy completions, the slants and the quick game, but they started getting beat and they were more susceptible on the deeper routes down the field. So I think in this game where you have a receiver who last year was 5 of 27 on deep passes, had one drop on deep passes, this Colorado State offense, 105th in the nation in deep ball passing grade last season. They don't like to throw it deep. They're not good at throwing it deep. Even their best weapon is a short intermediate receiver. Why give him the option to get going and get into a groove? Take that away by playing bump and run coverage, by pressing him when he's out. He's out wide most of the time. He makes it easy for you. If he's in the slot, then you got a different issue. Maybe then you just tangle him. Then you have two guys basically playing him, the inside cut and the outside cut. And if he's on the outside, which he is, you're playing bump and run, taking away the easy completions. If you're going to beat us over the top. We got a safety over there. Beat us with another guy. Because then I'll leave all of our other guys one-on-one. I'll take that. I'll take Texas one-on-one guys versus your other dudes on Colorado State that can't make this roster. That guy can't. I'm not even going to give him a chance to get going. Nope. Some coaches believe play it straight up. I'm not playing it straight up. I'm going to take him away. You can beat me with somebody else. And I don't think they can. The tight end is Vince Brown, the second, 6'6", 230. He's a good player. Justin Marshall, the running back, 5'10", 180, one start. The tight end's got 11 starts. Torrey Horton's got 26 starts. Armani Winfield's got one start. Dylan Goffney's got 13. Those guys aren't difference makers. They're just good players. Torrey Horton's a guy that can beat you. He can beat you. So that's why I would just take that away. And then you force Braden Fowler Nicolosi, to go to other weapons, which he's not as comfortable with, doesn't have as good a chemistry with, and he's a turnover-prone quarterback. So I definitely think he'd probably throw more interceptions throwing to some of the other guys rather than throwing to his number one target. So force him to throw to the other guys. And 16 interceptions, see if you can get him to throw you a couple of ill-advised passes. I mean, he had – let's go look at his – that's one thing that I think Texas got to take advantage of his matchup too. He had 4 games where he had multiple interceptions. 4 games where he ended up with multiple picks last year. So he'll give it to you. And he had at least one interception in every game except 2. So 10 out of 12 games, he had at least one pick. He's gonna throw you one.
Yeah.
He's gonna throw you one. He may throw you a couple you drop him, but he's gonna throw you one.
And I mean, and you talk about too, if you take away Horton, it also adds into giving your pass rush a 0.2 more seconds, because if that's the number one option, it gives you that little bit more time to make that next read. It gives you that little bit more time to get your hands up and tip a ball, get an interception that way, or just knock down the pass, make him a little bit more indecisive. And I think if you take that away, it just makes everything fall off timing, because he wants to get the ball, throw it to the guy that he thinks can win one-on-one coverage. And he goes, I just put it over there and I look like a good quarterback. So you take that away, then everything becomes on his shoulders. And the more pressure you get on him, the more he's going to sweat.
Yeah, because they had, and I totally, that's a great point, because they had, I want to say, I was like 18 guys transfer out of the program. And yeah, they lost 18 players, and 2 of their 3 top receivers left. I don't know why they left, because they're in an air raid offense, but they want to go to a better program, bigger stage. And everybody thought Torrey Horton was going to leave, and he didn't. So this is actually a little bit different in terms of the receiving core than Braden Fowler Nicolosi had last season. So you're right, Patrick. Why take away the guy he has chemistry with, that he's been with, that he knows? Force him to go to Armani Winfield, who just came via the transfer portal. Or force him to go to Dylan Goffney, who, he's also a transfer, I believe, from SMU, if I'm not mistaken. I got to go back and check that out. But force him to go to those guys.
Yeah. And force
him to no chemistry.
Force him to make reads. Because, again, you're talking about that pass rush. They help each other. If you're able to make him go to read 3, your pass rush has a way better shot at getting to him than if he's constantly able to go to his first read.
Yep. And if you can take away Horton, then you can almost know exactly, because he's usually out wide. Sometimes they put him out wide by himself. you'll know where to get your hands up too.
Yeah.
Because you can almost predict where those passing windows are going to be. Like, no, we're taking away him. So he's not going to throw at him. We got a guy underneath. We got a guy over the top. He ain't going to throw at him. Matter of fact, he's probably going to look away really quickly because we're going to do it pre-snap to deter him from even going over there. So I'm telling you, he's going to throw that other side. Get your hands up. Get ready. I would take him away. I would not play him straight up. We'll see what they do. Defensively, you don't really need to know much about the defense. You need to know. I hate to say it like that, but you really don't. They don't have. How about this? Okay, so let's look at the starts by the defense. Kalungi, the defensive end, 0 starts going into this season. The D tackle James Mitchell, 2 starts. The D tackle Barito, he's got 22 starts, so that's a veteran player. Gabe Kursky, 0 starts. Linebacker Jock, 0 starts. Linebacker. The linebacker Chase Wilson, and this is where you get some good players. Okay, so here it is. They're basically their back 7. They got some. I think they have good players. I like Henry Blackburn and Jack Howell, the safeties. I think they're genuinely good players. Jack Howell, the research I did on him, first team all conference for 2 straight years. He led the team in tackles, 114 tackles. His dad, actually, he's a team captain. His dad was a 3-year starter at Colorado State in like the late 90s to 2000s. He's kind of like, I guess he's my age. That's scary. Close to it. But when I think about it, yeah, I think he's right around there. Anyway, but yeah, he's a really good player. Safety's a really good player. Henry Blackburn, other safety, also led the team in interceptions, I believe, with 3. He's a good player at 75 tackles. They're one of the best safety duos Texas will face this year. I think they're good safeties. They got a cornerback who's also has a lot of experience, 15 starts in Dom Jones. He had 2 interceptions, 3 PBUs last season. And the linebacker Chase Wilson, who has 12 starts. He's a good player too. He's a senior. 107 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. So their weakness is their front, in my opinion. Their front 7. If you consider that. If you look at the back 7, I think they actually have some good players at the safety position, at that off-ball linebacker with Chase Wilson. I like the cornerback Dom Jones. Elias Larry is the other cornerback that is going to start. He's got 12 starts on the belt. So your secondary, you got 12 starts by the cornerback, 15 starts by Dom Jones, 17 starts and 28 starts between Blackburn and Jack Howell. Excuse me. And your nickelback, you've got 2 of them, but you at least got 9 starts from Dominique Morris. Your experience and, to me, your better players are in your secondary and your back 7. So I'm just saying I think Texas will have their way with that defensive line and that front. And they're light. I mean, they're a lighter from, and they're right around. They don't have super heavy guys. You got 6 foot 300, 6'1", 300. Their backup D tackles are 280. And their defensive ends are 240 and 245. And they got a backup defensive end that's 200. Like 6'4", 250. So Texas should be able to lean on them with that big offensive line. And they should be able to impose their will after a couple of quarters on that group. But Texas passing game, which doesn't have a ton of chemistry yet, and doesn't have a ton of continuity yet, that'll be tested against a secondary that's experienced, so they can show you different disguises. They can disguise things when you're a secondary because you know where you're supposed to be. So you can disguise things, especially with 2 safeties that have played that much football, and they have great route recognition because they've seen a lot of football. So they'll be able to diagnose routes pretty quickly. And if the chemistry from Quinn and the receivers isn't on and the timing is off, that'll be tested versus this group. I don't know if the pass rush will impact Texas very much from this group, but I like the secondary. I think the secondary is actually where the strength of Colorado State is. All right, we come back. We'll get into Rod's rant on the other side, some NFL news, notes, and nuggets, but that's a little Texas, Colorado State preview. More about that, obviously, later on in the show, but when we come back, we'll dive into Rod's rant right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into Rod's rant of the day. I got a couple of topics I want to address. One is about the lifetime Longhorns in the NFL. I made a prediction, and we'll also hear from Sark toward the end of this. Sark was asked about the heavy rotation of players they're expected to use in that Colorado State game, and because it's going to be so hot, and that's also one of the ways you're going to wear down Colorado State. They just don't have the depth you do. Not only are they unfamiliar and unaccustomed to that Texas heat, they just don't have the depth. You can wear them down, have fresher bodies late in the game, and hopefully you can pull away early in the game so we can see Arch Manning. I think that's what we all want to see. Speaking of, oh man, I guess we can get into this and off the record. The Quinn Ewers commercial with Dr. Pepper.
Good stuff.
Well done. It's. I gotta tell you, it's fantastic.
Good. They got to get some good writers. They got some good college football writers.
They nailed it. I'm not gonna lie. Usually I thought that stuff would be cheesy. They nailed it. We'll play it for you later on. They nailed it. They hit the narrative right. They hit the narrative right on the head. The narrative around Quinn right now, and what of course nationally everybody is talking about as it relates to the Texas quarterback position. We'll get into that later. Maybe we'll just make that a part of off the record if we don't have time to get to it in one of the other segments. But talking about the Texas players in the league right now, the Longhorns who have finished up their first preseason in the NFL. One of my bold predictions was JT Sanders starts for the Panthers by mid or end of the season. He'll end up being starting tight end. Just throwing this out there. I just read from a couple of insiders who follow the team, which, who I'm the only one who's following Carolina insiders who follow that team and Carolina fans. But JT Sanders, how about this? He has, it says here, and this is a Pro Football Focus article, so I'll give them credit too. They said here, I'll just read it verbatim. 4th round rookie JT Sanders was the team's primary tight end throughout the preseason. In the third game, he played 10 of a possible 12 snaps with the starters before departing. That suggests he may have already overtaken one or both of the veteran tight ends. They said Tommy Tremble and Ian Thomas missed the entire preseason due to injury. They're still listed as starters on the Panthers depth chart, though, even with the JT Sanders ascension. Jordan Matthews has consistently been the other tight end. He did not take a snap in the fourth quarter of any game and played on only the first 3 drives of the final games. And also a JT Sanders stat, he has had 3 targets on 29 routes in the preseason, caught all 3 for 35 yards. So, that's not bad for a rookie in the NFL. 65% of his snaps have come as an inline tight end. And it says here he looks like the starting tight end because Tommy Tremble has not played. So there's some people indicating like he may end up getting an accelerated kind of development, if you will, because some guys are hurt, but by the Carolina Panthers because they like him. So that might turn out to be right sooner rather than later when it comes to that one. Also, some other guys in the preseason, based on some lifetime Longhorns, what we saw from them in the preseason. A.D. Mitchell. This is interesting, and maybe you fantasy guys probably care about this a little bit more too if you're picking A.D. Mitchell on your fantasy team. But when they had the injury to was it Josh Downs? They had an injury to him. I think he had an ankle sprain. They started to put A.D. Mitchell in a slot during the preseason. Matter of fact, he scored that touchdown this past weekend. He was in the slot when he scored that touchdown with the Colts. In Downs' absence, Mitchell has played in the slot in 11 personnel, and the 2, basically Alec Pierce and A.D. Mitchell, who are competing for that starting wide receiver spot. A lot of people believe A.D. Mitchell is going to end up winning it because he's kind of the last chance for Alec Pierce to prove himself. The 2 played all 7 drives with the starters, including an additional drive in week 1. In the last week of the preseason, Pierce took the first snap when it was just 12 personnel, with just 2 wide receivers, and then A.D. Mitchell took the other 3. So once they get Downs back, I don't know how they're going to break it down, but I think they're going to end up going with A.D. Mitchell over Pierce, but at least they'll move A.D. Mitchell around to a little bit because they'll probably put him in a slot some as well. Here's something else to consider. We're talking about lifetime Longhorns in the league. I know Rojo's he's not a rookie, But man, the Bears. I'm just kind of looking at their rotation of backs. I mean, obviously, no Swift didn't play at all, but Rojo played in the Hall of Fame game and rotated throughout the first half with Khalil Herbert. And they don't. I'm not sure they know how they want to rotate those guys. Herbert rotated with Johnson, and was the primary early down back with the starters, but he didn't take the third down snaps. So maybe you're confident that Herbert won't play on third downs this season. Also, they have another back that they like. That the young back, they switched positions. They wide receiver turned halfback, Velas Jones Jr. He ran for 111 yards in their final preseason game, but he didn't play until that after the undrafted rookie that they like, Ian Wheeler, had played. So the Bears are either not going to keep Jones and Wheeler and cut those guys, or maybe keep one of those guys they like and trade Herbert or Rojo. And Rojo missed a low time this preseason with an injury. So there's talk the Bears would be open to trading those. I told the Cowboys should call up the Bears. Try to trade for Rojo. See if they'll trade Rojo to you.
Yeah, be fun.
That would be fun. Young Rojo back in Texas. I'm telling you, man, that'd be pretty nasty. And he can if he's part of your committee, then I'm starting to like that committee a little bit more.
I'm starting to like him more too.
Yeah. Now Herbert, Khalil Herbert would work too. I mean, he would be. I think he would be a difference maker. Either one of those guys, I think, would be adding a potential difference maker in that room. So there you go. Keep that in mind, Cowboys fans. That the Bears, they got a lot of running backs, and they may want to do something with them. Speaking of running backs, Keelan Robinson missed all three preseason games due to injury. So I didn't find out much about Keelan Robinson. Xavier Worthy, though, 19 of 24 snaps he took with the starters. That's, that just shows you, I mean, he's going to be the guy. Their three receivers are going to be, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, and I assume Hollywood Brown whenever he gets healthy. But they still got Justin Ross and McCole Hardeman and Kadarius Toney. They're a receiver room in one offseason, and this is what Brett Veach does. He just totally just revamped it in one offseason. Now it's one of the top wide receiving groups in the league.
Yeah, I mean, if Juju can block well. And
they got Juju.
They just brought back Juju.
Yeah.
Who was there a year ago and then went to the Patriots and then realized that was probably a mistake.
Did you see? And I don't. Maybe it's real. I don't. Maybe it's fake. I should say. Maybe it's some AI generated thing. Did you see that they have there's a picture of Juju Smith-Schuster with the Patriots, and beneath his Patriots uniform, you can see a Kansas City logo?
No, that's gotta be.
Like I said, it might be fake, might be AI generated, but it's roaming out there. I swear, go. I'll try to find a credible source with it. I think I found it on maybe it was like Dove Climbing on that account. I'll see if I can find it, but apparently there are some people online that believe, that he did that, and I think it might be like a lucky, who knows, like a lucky shirt, or might have been like one of his, like, I don't know, the like the different, undergarments that you would wear as a player. Like, so he might have just been comfortable wearing the Kansas City one because it played for Kansas City.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It looks like it's on practice too.
Is it real, or were you talking about something that was
I don't know.
fake?
I think I'm seeing just the same picture you have, so I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So it is, I'm saying it is out there. I said, I don't know if it's real or not, but it'd be treachery if that was the case, if he did something like that. But anyway, but yeah, they got to cut at least one or two of those wide receivers. They're not going to keep all of them. Because they still got Justin Watson, and they got Sky Moore still on that squad.
Yeah, they've cut a few wide receivers already, but not any.
None of the names none of the big names yet. Yeah.
No, they've cut Jerron Hayek, Phillip Brooks, and Kyle Sheets.
Yeah, they're just cutting Jags now. Just Jags. So yeah, I don't know but that group is deep now. Xavier Worthy is definitely going to be a featured. I think he's going to be featured in the offense, guys. Like early on too. I mean, Andy Reid's already been his creative bag about Xavier Worthy and what kind of weapon he can be with the Chiefs. Still don't know how the hell the NFL let that happen. Like what? Like really? Out of all the teams you could end up with, did y'all really let that happen? Come on, man.
Buffalo.
All right.
Thanks, Buffalo.
Thanks. Come on, Buffalo. Yeah, what are we doing here? I just let that happen. You should just. I know they wanted a bigger receiver. I guess they wanted someone. They didn't think his game would translate to bad weather. Is that what it was?
Yeah, you could have traded him. You could have traded that pick to anyone else. Anyone else.
Anyone else, you could have been like, nah, I'm refusing to do that. Y'all are going for a
Y'all could have
three-peat.
just called it. You could have just group text to every other GM. Kansas City's trading up for X-Man who wants to match the pick. The entire would text back. We'll match. Just don't do that.
Just don't let that happen. Don't let that happen. Let him get somebody else. Don't let him get that dude, the fastest dude in the history of the NFL Combine. God, it's gonna get ugly. Hopefully the Texans will have an answer for it. I think Derek Stingley might be the answer for them. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We come back. We got to get into what the facts, what the stats. I got a few of those I'll share. Speaking of the NFL, I got some NFL stats I'll share with you and some college football stats already. We'll get into that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into what the facts, what the stats here on the Rodcast. Got a couple of factoids for you from around the sports world. Teams averaged 26 yards per kick return this preseason. That would be the highest average in NFL history. So there you go. That's exactly what they wanted. They wanted to make sure that teams are, getting more returns, which they are. So returns are up, touchbacks are down, and you're averaging better field position via kickoff returns than ever before. It's exactly what the NFL wanted. So that's right now the new kickoff return rule can be considered a success.
And
We'll
what's
see.
the biggest thing is before is like 3 or 4 years ago. After a touchdown was scored, you had from the moment the touchdown was scored till the next drive started to go to the bathroom, go get food or whatever else. Now you have to watch extra points because they can be missed.
Yep.
And now you have to watch kickoffs because they can be returned.
Yeah.
So
78% of them have been returned.
So which means it cuts down on you running away during commercial breaks, which is what they wanted to do.
Yep. Eyeballs. No wasted. They don't want a wasted play. That was considered a dead play by everybody.
Yeah.
Somebody score, you're right. And everybody gets up from the television and goes to do something. And now, nope, they want you glued to the screen. And you know what? Right now, I'll be glued to because I do want to see during the season the strategy to it, and when they start to put better playmakers in on the kickoff return, if it becomes more of a weapon. How about this one? This is a WNBA stat. Got it from The Athletic. Angel Reese is this is crazy. She's shooting 43.8% on shots within 5 feet of the basket. The worst percentage in the WNBA. Isn't that crazy? And how about this? If you go look at shots within 5 feet, she leads the league in shots within 5 feet. She's by far and away. She's probably got somewhere close to 30 more shots than the person who's second place, which is Darica Hamby, who is second in shots within 5 feet of the rim, but she's got the worst field goal percentage in the league at shots within 5 feet.
It's one of the reasons why some people believe she's padding her stats. Is that she's basically going up and just shooting and rebounding and shooting and rebounding to become the most prolific rebounder into the WNBA.
She's getting like 3 rebounds in every play.
Because she
like
set
that.
the record for most 20-plus rebound games.
Wow.
And then people are starting to be like, yeah, well, if those rebounds are offensive rebounds because you can't hit it, give me, we don't care. Like, that's not impressive. That you are just bigger than everybody and missing the same shot over and over again and rebounding and going back up. That's not as impressive.
So is she just a bad shooter, or is she just really a savvy, diabolical mind?
I could say I do not watch enough WNBA to tell you the breakdown of her inside shots. Normally, it's people that don't necessarily hit shots well inside. They don't deal well with contact inside and getting bumped, and they just don't deal well with it. They don't shoot off the backboard well. Things like that should be easier to do when you're a bigger person. But yeah, that's the reason why the Angel Reese haters, at least, I don't know how much of it believe that she's padding her stats and actively trying to get more rebounds.
That's I had not heard. That's an interesting conspiracy theory because that is that's a glaring statistical anomaly there. That how bad she is at shooting. If I maybe in college, was she that bad?
No, I don't think
WNBA
so.
Thing.
But I mean, again, yeah, but it's
like I didn't watch enough to know. I watched some of the championship run and them. They're obviously them in a tournament, but I didn't watch a lot of the regular season, so I don't know. That's a random stat. There you go. Fact. That's one of those factoids there for you. I got a couple of other factoids, but I know we're up against it, so I'll give you those kind of during the show. We'll kind of get into some of the other factoids because some of them are NFL related, some CeeDee Lamb related factoids we'll get into. It's also a CJ Stroud conversation I want to have, so we'll dive into that coming up next hour. But right now, we'll get into the break so we can come back and dive into the CeeDee Lamb contract. We'll talk Cowboys. Jerry Jones's quote that honestly I thought was fake at first. I thought it was a fake quote. I assumed, oh man, somebody's having some fun. Jerry Jones wouldn't go off like that. He wouldn't have an expletive-filled rant. I was wrong. That it is Jerry Jones. Several other sources have confirmed. So we'll get into that Jerry Jones quote. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain. We'll hear from Steve Sarkisian. He had his Monday press conference, which he does every Monday during the season. So we'll hear from the head coach, talk about Texas versus Colorado State, all of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a top of the charts Tuesday. That's when Patrick plays jams that reached the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. So we appreciate all of his efforts on the top of the charts Tuesday. We also appreciate all of his efforts in coming up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day. And today is talking about Texas football. We're all in a Texas football state of mind. Patrick, give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day. How many rushing yards will Texas have against Colorado State? Right now, leading the way is the 150 to 199. That is where I had mine as well. Then coming up next at 24% is 100 to 149. You got about 17% of people that say 200 plus, say a big rushing game. And then a small selection saying that this is going to be the worst rushing game for Texas in a long time. At 0 to 99, you get about 6.5% of people saying that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, between 150 and 200 yards. And I think it depends on Jaden Blue and how many big runs Jaden Blue gets early on in the game. And Jaden Blue if he breaks 2 or 3 big runs, then,
Yeah,
you can easily get to that 200-yard mark. If
yeah.
he breaks 230 to 40-yard runs, which could happen. Jaden Blue's got that kind of ability, but I think Sark's will try to pull those guys early on, having Jaden Blue or Trey Wisner in that game. Game is out of hand or in hand, firmly in hand, and you're confident and take the chance on something happening to your running backs, even getting dinged up to one of your top 2 guys. So I think that could hurt the running game too, because you could get a lot of, Jared Gibson, Velton Gardner. You can get a lot of him in there. You can get a lot of the other guys, because the top 2 running backs, I think they're going to be safeguarded once the game is in hand, and you won't see any of Jaden Blue or Trey Wisner for that case. So that could also affect it. But the offensive line, I've talked about this. The offensive line for Texas has a huge size advantage over the defensive front and defensive line of Colorado State. And Texas offensive line is deep, and it has a lot of depth, second and third string guys. So late in the game, when Texas second team O-line is in there, they'll still be better than most of the O-lines that Colorado State has seen or will see this coming season. So they still could end up just imposing their will and running downhill, playing bully ball against them, even with, some of the backup running backs in the backfield, just because the O-line, it's just a huge talent gap.
Yeah.
And also a size and girth mass gap between Texas and Colorado State. Here's their defense. I went over this earlier about their defensive line. Their 2 defensive ends, they got one 6'4", 250, one 6'4", 200. They do have 2 300-pound D tackles, James Mitchell and Cam Barreto. But the guys behind them, Prendergast and Larich, are 280, both 280. They got another defensive end that's 245 and another one that's 240. They got one defense that's 200 pounds. So I think throughout the game, it's hot. You're going up against bigger humans than you're probably seeing on your schedule. And I think that could also play a role in why the running game still could pop a couple late in the game without a Jaden Blue, without Trey Wisner.
Yeah.
So I'll stay 150
No,
to 200.
we're gonna hope that Colin Page gets in the game. Play some,
There you go.
The walk on there from Anderson.
Yes.
Well,
There you go. Colin Page. That's what I want to see too.
You want to get him in there.
And we want to see Arch. If I don't see Arch by mid third quarter, or maybe second, third drive of the third quarter, I'd be a little disappointed. That means games.
Well, let's put it this way.
close.
I think we'll see. We will see Arch by that point. The question is, will we not see Quinn again? Because we did. Sark was asked, will we see Quinn? Because he said the 2 deep, everyone will play in the first half. And then they asked him, well, does that mean Arch is going to play in the first half? And Sark kind of laughed and said, we'll see.
He was laughing when he said that.
So I don't know if that means, no, of course not. Quinn's going to play the whole first half. Or, no, we're going to throw a bunch of different stuff out there.
Well, if Quinn, if they get a big blowout, they're up by 28 points in the first half, then you can see Arch in the first half. I don't know if I wouldn't take that bet.
I wouldn't take it either. I'm
I wouldn't
just saying.
take the bet.
Just saying.
I wouldn't take that bet. But like I said, if you go out and you start whipping up on Colorado State early, you get a non-offensive touchdown early. Nicolosi throws you a couple of interceptions, which he's been known to do. And yeah, you just kind of steamroll them and start boat racing them. Yeah, put them out there. Take Quinn off. I agree. I don't have no problem with that. And give Arch some reps because I mean I hate to say it, the chances are recent history would suggest, knocking on wood, recent history suggests that Quinn won't make it through an entire season unscathed, and also that whoever is the starting quarterback at Texas won't start and finish every game this season. That's what history would tell you. So be prepared for Arch to play a critical role in some way, form, or fashion, either starting the game or coming in to save the day in the game.
Yeah.
So that's just so I don't disagree with, hey man, let's get Arch out there as soon as possible. Let's just make sure that he's comfortable. And then you gotta throw it a little bit. You can't just have him out there handing out the football. That ain't no fun. And Sark wants to hype the crowd. Sark's all over. He's admitted that he likes to hype the crowd. He's admitted that the crowd has influence on him, which is dangerous, but also pretty damn cool. That's why the fans like Sark's offense, because Sark, he's thinking about y'all. He's like, nah, let me put in this double pass. They don't get them hype. And it's like, no, don't worry about the damn crowd. Let's just get the first down. We're trying to get the crowd hype. We're trying to get the crowd hype. I ain't even in the crowd. I'm at home watching.
That was the other joking moment from the press conference was when he was asked about this freshman punter, Michael Kern. Yeah. And he said, oh, we'll see him. He goes, I hope we don't see him.
Exactly.
Realize they're okay. Oh, no, we don't want to punt the ball.
I want to say Sark had back-to-back games where he did not punt.
Yeah, it was like
in 2021.
I don't. Was it full back-to-backs or was it like into the third or fourth quarter when it happened? But I know what you're talking about. I remember that too.
I want to say it was back-to-back games where Texas didn't punt. Like I remember saying, I don't think I've ever seen that before. Maybe I'm off. Maybe I'm misremembering. I think CB probably shot it out and throw it to me.
I remember there was.
I remember it was something funky like that.
Yeah,
it was like their first. It was like 2021. Right, it was like his first year too. It wasn't even like the second or the third year.
I remember there was a stretch where they didn't punt, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and do some research about that, but I do remember that being the case. All right, what also is the case is CeeDee Lamb has signed his new deal. I don't know if they have agreed to a new deal. I don't know if he actually signed the dotted line just yet, but he's agreed to a new deal with the Dallas Cowboys, and we'll talk about that contract extension and what it means. Why did it take so long? We'll also discuss Jerry Jones's quote. I think Jerry Jones is tired of y'all talking trash about him. He's tired of y'all Cowboys fans and y'all's rants and frustrations, taking it out on him and calling him out about his ineptitude or dysfunction as a GM of the Dallas Cowboys. And we'll actually read that quote. We have yet to find the audio. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. But Clarence Hill, who's at a new spot now, Clarence Hill actually no longer with the old publication he was with. He's at a new spot. I think it's All Dallas, but all DLLS.com, I believe it's the spot. He had a hell of a viral quote from Jerry Jones to kick off his campaign at a new spot. So we'll read that coming up later on, and we'll go behind the Burn Orange curtain next segment and hear from Steve Sarkisian, the head coach of the Texas football team, at his Monday press conference. But first, let's get updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros dropped the first game of their series with the Phillies 3-2 in extra innings last night. The Astros took a 2-run lead into the fourth on a Shea Whitcomb double, but gave up runs in the fifth and sixth innings to leave the game tied heading into extra innings. The Astros couldn't get the runner home from second, and Bryce Harper got a single in the bottom of the 10th, sending the winning run home. Justin Verlander will get his second start returning from injury today as the Astros look to even the series. And the Rangers begin their series with the league's worst Chicago White Sox, hoping to make a last-ditch effort at a run for the playoffs. Andrew Heaney will get the start for the Rangers against Garrett Crochet, who's been one of the only bright spots for the White Sox this season. In the NFL, the Cowboys finally came to terms with CeeDee Lamb on a 4-year, $136 million extension yesterday. The deal will reportedly include $100 million guaranteed and a $38 million signing bonus. The Cowboys are also reportedly meeting with free agent running back Dalvin Cook in Dallas, as the final roster cuts are due today at 3 p.m. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, Patrick, thank you for the Horn headlines there. Yes, CeeDee Lamb signs his new deal. And, it's interesting. I was reading the Jane Slater. She had a very interesting little tidbit. She had a tweet talking about some of the details about the CeeDee Lamb deal. And she pointed out that CeeDee Lamb and his camp, his representatives, they were at $34 million per year as the average annual salary the entire time. That was their initial, that was their initial stance, and they did not waver at all. That's just where they were. And that's where the Cowboys ended up. They ended up at $34 million per year. She also claims for a long time the Cowboys were at 32.5, which aligns with the reports that they weren't quite at 33. Remember, we were shocked. We're like, they're not at 33 yet. We thought 33 was where they would start the offer. They started below 33, 32.5. I don't know why. And then they moved up to 33, and then initially had to move up to 34. So that's, I'm sure, where the hardball negotiations were taking place. Guaranteed money is also, I'm sure, a big part of it. And I'll admit this. We have talked about, and I even have Adam Schefter's articles talking about it. We've talked about Justin Jefferson's contract where he had 80 plus million at signing. My assumption now is that is very different than a signing bonus, and I don't know what the difference is because CeeDee Lamb he got the biggest signing bonus ever for a receiver. Adam Schefter reported that. Adam Schefter also reported that Justin Jefferson's deal was 80 plus million at signing. So I assume that was another way of saying signing bonus. And I'm now thinking that is not another way of saying signing bonus. That is something totally different. I do not know what the difference is in at signing and signing bonus because they got to be very different. And sometimes you don't even see what guys get. I don't even know why Justin Jefferson, I haven't even really been able to find out what the signing bonus is.
Yeah.
They just say at signing. I thought, well, that's the signing bonus. I'm assuming that's something different now contractually. I will try to ask like an actual agent because I haven't been able to find a clarity on that. But I remember I told you guys about that, and I assumed that was a signing bonus. So right now I'm thinking I assumed wrong about that, but I don't know. So he gets the largest signing bonus ever for a wide receiver. So that for him, I think is a win. And he got 34 million. That was what they wanted. They wanted 34 million per year. That's exactly what they got. So for Jerry Jones, maybe the fourth year was something they won on. Maybe they wanted an extra year because they gave him 100 million guaranteed. So maybe that was part of it. I'm not exactly sure, but this is essentially where we thought he would be anyway. And some Cowboys fans are saying, why did it take this long? Hey, even if Jerry Jones was milking it for the drama, because Jerry Jones loved drama, he understands that, villains create conflict creates storylines, and the Cowboys, the number one TV star, the number one TV show in America. Hey, maybe you need some storylines. We'll get it done. Just do it at the midnight hour. That's always more interesting. So maybe that's part of it too. Or, maybe that 32.5 that they initially offered, maybe it meant that much to him to play hardball and have kind of a hardball negotiation. I don't get it. I don't get for the Cowboys why you wouldn't initially just go 34 million. Yeah, you know what? We kind of got you slided right behind Justin Jefferson too. That's where you are. But they fought for it.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly where the Cowboys won here, but they got their guy. That's all that matters. I don't know where they won in the negotiation though, and maybe they didn't. Not sure how that worked out for him.
By the way, I'm looking at Justin Jefferson's. It says basically a $37 million signing bonus is what they're saying for the Justin Jefferson, which means they just beat it out for the CeeDee Lambs, which means that clearly was a point to beat it out.
So CeeDee Lambs was 38 million.
CeeDee Lambs was 38, and Justin Jefferson's was roughly 37.
Okay, yeah. So I still don't know what at signing means. Then
no,
I don't know.
I can look at this contract and it says guaranteed at signing is just under 89 million. And total guaranteed is 110, and I don't know what the difference between those two is. So
okay, yeah, all right. So that it's clearly something different. Yeah. So it's weird that Yeah, they reported like that too. That sign, and they didn't say that wasn't seen in the details for CeeDee Lamb either. So still not sure what the difference is, but doesn't matter. The guaranteed money is what mattered. We were telling you guys that that's probably going to be a sticking point for the negotiation. Guaranteed money, and he got second most guaranteed money for a wide receiver and the biggest signing bonus for a wide receiver. And that Cowboys probably got their fourth year. I think maybe that was something that they wanted, but it's there's no doubt that it's to me he's deserving of the contract. I mean, you go look at the different statistical categories that he is basically considered from last season the best in or second best in. It's a long list, but here it is. Targets, he was first. Receptions, first. Second in receiving yards. First in yak yards. Second in receiving touchdowns. Second in receiving first downs. First in just the longest reception of the season, which is 92 yards. Receiving percentage per target, second. If you look at 100 plus receiving yard games, he was tied for second. Receiving yards per game, he was third. First half receiving yards, he was first. I mean, it's just a monster season. And there's no better receiver out of the slot right now than CeeDee Lamb. I mean, they call him in fantasy, they call him the slot god. He kills it in the slot. And I think he has last 2 years over 1,800 yards receiving just from the slot, or nearly 1,800 yards receiving from the slot, and only spends like between 56 and 60% of his snaps in the slot. He does a lot of damage when he's in that slot, and the Cowboys been able to weaponize him. He is the catalyst for that offense. Once you have to roll coverage and double CeeDee Lamb because you can't leave him in one-on-one coverage for too long, and once you do that, everything else opens up for the Cowboys offense. So it was something the Cowboys needed to get done, and now they got to focus on Dak. Now they got to get the Dak deal done, and I don't know how long that's going to get done. They got a week before the season starts. I think you'd want to get that deal done before you go into the season, but we'll see. I think if you're Dak, you want to get it done before you go into the season. You don't want to go into the season playing on the last year of that deal. Now, yeah, you got all the leverage, but man, it's football and anything crazy could happen.
Yeah, and two, you don't want to have that keep going over where every game after the game, is there any progress? Are you sign it and then have to go in and deal with, well, contract negotiations, you threw 2 interceptions last week, so we got to give you, $2 million less here and then $1 million less here. Oh, well, I threw for 5 touchdowns in this game, so now you need to give me $2 million back here. Like it becomes
That's
silliness once you get into the regular season versus if you get it done and you can just go play football. Or if you're Dak and you just say, screw it, the negotiations in week 1. You had your chance to sign me. Now you don't. I'm done. I'm leaving. Or you can re-sign me at the end of the season. But this is it. We're not talking contract during the season. Because there's plenty of guys who've said that too. That say we're just not talking contract during the season. Or they'll give a week date to say we're done talking contract here. This is the deadline. If we don't get it done, we're not getting it done. And we'll move on and we'll see at the end of the season. And if he goes right and wins the NFC Championship game, it makes it to a Super Bowl, then he walks back into Jerry Jones' office and he's got all the chips.
Yeah, no, Jerry Jones was asked about that. He was asked about, Mike McCarthy being on the last year of his deal and whether he believes having your back against the wall in the contract year, final year of your deal brings out your best. He said, quote, absolutely, I do. I really do. There's no question in my mind that angst, pressure, competing will bring out the best in this game from coaches and players. But this game has to have some extra fire over the guys that you're in front of on the field. That's why I'm kind of amazed at someone talking about the job they're doing without a contract. Blows my mind. So that's Jerry saying he agrees that it motivates, it incentivizes coaches and players to do their best in contract years. Speaking of the Jerry Jones quote, here's the one we were referring to from alldls.com. And it's from Clarence Hill. So shout out to Chill, formerly of the Fort Worth Star Telegram, but now he's at alldallas.com, alldalls.com. He said, this is Jerry Jones quote. He said, quote, I've done it all. So I have an inordinate amount of confidence that F, if anybody can figure out how to get this ish done, I can figure out how to get it done. I've been there every which way from Sunday, and I have busted my arse a bunch, a bunch. And there's nobody living that's out cutting and shooting that can't give you a bunch of times they've busted their arse. So hell no, there's nobody that could effing come in here and do all the contracts and be a GM any better than I can. Plus, I'm where the buck stops. When it F's up, I got to cover it. And so there, you can't give anybody enough. Can't give. There's nobody can do it. He said, I effing have hundreds of bad days. I'm emotional about it sometimes. Well, running this thing, that's who I want to make the last call. Now, when I can't effing think, when I'm old and I can't even do it, but I'm a long way from not being able to do it too. The reason I don't let somebody else be the GM is because I don't have anybody that I will let do it to actually do it right. And they're going to have to come to me. And because I know where it is, you're going to have to pay for it. He said, if I didn't give an ish, if this wasn't fun for me to do or interesting for me to do, whatever you want to call, the facts are, I really would rather be effing around like this. The point is, I love this, and you know I do. Yeah. So basically, he's saying, like, don't matter. Nobody can do it better than me. What I'm doing right now. There's nobody that I know or nobody that I could hire that could do a better job than what Jerry Jones is doing as the owner / GM, which just shows you how deep in the delusion Jerry Jones is.
Yeah. And Steven has to love it. Steven gets it that he is. Yeah. No one can do it. No, there's no one who can do it right now. There's not the guy that I'm training to do it who's supposed to be right behind me. And that's the plan.
Yeah. And he said he's not too old for it. He addressed that. He said, when I'm old and I can't even do it, but I'm a long way from not being able to do it too. The Stephen Jones one, I mean, if you're Stephen and you hear it, he said, the reason I don't let somebody else be the GM is because I don't have anybody that I will let do it to actually do it right. That's you, Stephen. He don't trust you to do it right. So he addressed a lot here. I mean, it's, like I said, it's almost like it strikes me as kind of a beef record with Cowboys fans. Like he's letting y'all know, like, hey, nobody can do it better than I do it. I'm where the buck stops. I gotta pay for it. So, deal with it. I'm old, but I'm not too old to do this damn job. And I don't trust Stephen Jones or anybody else to do it. So either get on board or get the hell on. Yeah. That's what Jerry's saying. I'm not saying that.
No. And just to know, Jerry Jones, 81 years old.
Not too old.
Not too old.
Not too old to do it. That was like that.
According to him.
Yeah, according to him.
I don't think he said he's too old to do it. I don't think he could have done it 20 years ago when he was younger. So really, the age is not the biggest issue. It's that he should have never really been the guy.
Yeah, knowledge and experience, because he never had any front office or executive experience when he bought the Cowboys and named himself GM. But he hired football people initially, and that was a smart decision. And Jimmy Johnson and Bill Parcells were football guys, and so he had his most of his success as a GM in terms of winning football games on the field and winning championships when he relied on a football guy to come in and make those football decisions. Now that he's become entrenched as the GM of the Cowboys, they're further from that championship goal than they've ever been, pretty much. I mean, that's just, I know some people would say they're close, but I mean, they've just been banging on the divisional round door for 20 plus years now. So and do we think they're closer this year than they have been? I don't think so. I think they're just gonna they're gonna get to the first round of the playoffs, and
I mean, if
they're
that's
not gonna be able to get past the division round again.
If the running back game is what it is right now, and if their interior D line doesn't do a better job defending the run than last year, then no, they can't be better than last year.
And I don't think those things are gonna happen.
So that's two main areas you had to improve on, and you didn't necessarily improve on either.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are just where they were last year. So to Jerry Jones, I don't know what Jerry Jones is saying that nobody else can do a better job. I think You've hired people that have done a better job. You hired you hired Jimmy Johnson. He did a better job. You hired. I mean, no, they weren't the GM, but they were making all the football decisions.
Yeah.
And I think when you let somebody else make the football decisions, the Cowboys will be better off. But since obviously since Bill Parcells left, they haven't anybody in there to check Jerry Jones to say, no, I'm making the football decisions, Jerry. And that I think ultimately is the biggest issue. Yeah. So Jerry Jones is he's the biggest problem for the Cowboys, but also I think he's the only solution really for the Cowboys because he's the only one while he's alive can say, all right, I'm hiring a GM, I'm hiring a real football guy. He's the only one that can do it. The Will McClay thing was a step, I will admit, in the right direction. Will McClay and him have worked well together. So he does have a de facto football guy that's a GM, but Jerry still has final call. He really does. Y'all hearing it right there. Yeah. Jerry Jones want to do it. He could be persuaded and influenced, but if he wants to do it, he's gonna do it, and he's gonna do it the way he wants it because he's the owner and the GM. So that's that quote is. I thought it was a fake quote. It's not. He's dropping. We'll try to find the actual audio because I'm sure the audio is hilarious. I love hearing Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones drop some f-bombs, which I don't think I've ever. Have we heard Jerry Jones cussing like that before?
Not as much as he did in that, but maybe
I know he dropped some like anecdotally, like casually, but he may say something, but never like that. Never dropping just f-bomb after f-bomb. I don't know if we've seen Jerry like that. So Jerry was hyped up.
No, Clarence got him hyped up.
As I say, Chill found him. Chill got him in a very relaxed mode, and he was ready to, settle some beef. That sounded like that was like a beef record, man, for real. He's ready to settle some with Cowboys fans. All right, we come back. We'll get into Texas football conversation because we got to hear from Steve Sarkisian, head coach of the Longhorns. He had his Monday press conference, which he will do every Monday here during the football season. We'll hear from Sark about the upcoming opponent, Colorado State, and about his team, the new look of them, and what's the feel, the identity of this team, what makes them special. Sark gets into that a little bit, and we will as well right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Steve Sarkisian audio here. He had his Monday press conference, which he will have every game week this upcoming season. And he's talking about the Colorado State Rams. And here is Sark giving his thoughts on the upcoming opponent this weekend for the Longhorns.
But the coolest thing is we get to play football again, and we're excited for it. We've got a very tough opponent. Coach Norvell has done a really good job of building that program back up at Colorado State. They were, I know that 5-7 last year, but there was a lot of close games that could have went either way. They've got a very explosive offense that likes to throw the ball around, a dynamic receiver in Torrey Horton, as well as him being a kick returner, a veteran offensive line with a couple of grad transfers, a very veteran defense with two really good safeties, all conference safeties that have played a lot of football, and a very intricate special teams unit. Very well coached team. They tax you mentally as well as tax you physically. And this is going to take a great week of preparation from our players, not only physically, but mentally, because they're going to get challenged in all three phases.
Yeah, Sark has also asked about, what he is looking for. What's his kind of the top priority for him? What's the big emphasis in week one for his football team? Here's Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah, I think one of the keys is you try to minimize the self-inflicted wounds in week one. And what are those? False starts, illegal formations, defensive, lining up in the neutral zone, jumping off sides. You try to minimize the penalties in the special teams game, right? The blocks in the backs, the holds. You try to minimize the substitution errors. You want to have 11 guys on the field. You don't want to get stuck with 12 or 10 and having to waste timeouts. Naturally, you want to tackle as best you can. We try to tackle to get our guys ready, but you can never do it enough. But to take care of both sides, this is what you have to do. So you're always looking for, how are we tackling? Are we bringing our feet? And then for me, the biggest thing that I'm looking for now more than ever is our ability to play a lot of players, especially in the first half of this game. And, I know, like we have a 2 deep, when in reality, our 1s are our 2s and our 2s are our 1s. And so getting all those guys involved in the game and seeing the comfort level maybe of some of our younger players, then getting them more comfortable as the game goes on, I think is important for us as well.
All right, that's Sark talking about getting those younger players comfortable, and that means that Sark's going to be looking to solidify or finalize that depth chart coming up. And here's Sark talking about whether that depth chart is set for week one.
No, we always, week one for us, we always leave it open, again, because I think a lot of guys, there's still growth to be had. And I think this week, and as always early in the season, because we play so many players early in the season and now more than ever, like if you're in the 2 deep, you're playing in the first half, and then if you're a 3, there's a good chance that you could play, especially at specific positions. And so it's more about who's going to go on the field first, but they're all going to play. And so I try to keep that open in week one so that guys can continue to show their development, their improvement from week to week to week. And this is an important week for a lot of our younger players who continue to develop.
All right, that's Sark talking about finalizing a depth chart. It says he leaves it open for week one. Pretty certain by week 2 versus Michigan, they'll definitely have that depth chart finalized. Torrey Horton is actually one of the players on the Colorado State team that could be on the Texas depth chart. He's a really good player. He'll be drafted on Sundays. Here's Sark talking about the best player on that Colorado State roster.
Yeah, I think it's, with him, first of all, where is he lining up? The guy, they move him around a fair amount. And then having the ability to win at the top of routes against him. He's got good length. And then you got to get him on the ground. And as much as getting him on the ground when we're on defense, we've got to get him on the ground when he's returning kicks too. We've got to get him on the ground because when he can open his stride up and get in the open field, he can run away from you. And so I think it's going to be important that we get multiple hats to the ball, not just with him, but with everybody. We've got to play with amazing effort defensively. We've got to swarm the football with the understanding that we might miss some tackles in week one. And well, it's okay sometimes to miss as long as 2, 3, and 4 tacklers are showing up, right after that. And so that just goes back to effort. And so that's why we always try to critique effort first, to make sure that our guys are playing with that fanatical effort that's needed for us defensively.
All right, that's Sark. I'm talking about trying to tackle Torrey Horton. It will be, trust me, it's a Herculean task, man. He's one of the best receivers in the country. 575 of his receiving yards are from passes that are between 0 to 10 yards, so under 10 yards. He does a lot with the yak yards, 11th most yak yards in college football last year. Also, ironically, 575 for him, and he can move. Average top speed of nearly 22 miles per hour. Xavier Worthy was clocked last year as the fastest college football player by real analytics at 22.7 miles per hour, just to give you a little perspective on how fast he is. So he can burn. He can burn a little bit. And all of his damage, most of his damage is done with the short to intermediate routes. All right. So moving on from Torrey Horton, let's talk about the Texas run game a little bit. Sark was asked about the injuries at running back, and if that will deter him from running in between the tackles and having so much power run game involved in the identity of this offense, given losing Cedric Baxter and losing another depth piece in Christian Clark. Here's what Sark had to say.
We're going to run it between the tackles. They learn how to run when the day they show up here. 3 years ago, I couldn't have said that about Jaden Blue, but he's been an understudy to Bijan Robinson, Roshan Johnson, Jonathan Brooks, and he's more than capable. Trey Wisner, Jarrett Gibson. I mean, all these guys, when we go to team run, we're a physical football team, and we believe in running the ball. We believe in stopping the run, and inevitably you learn how to run our style. And then we accentuate that with the perimeter plays and different things with the running back. So they're going to run between the tackles, and they'll do great.
There's Sark saying they go running between the tackles. Doesn't matter who's back there. It could be, the lightest back there. And I would say that they did that in the bowl game versus Colorado in that Alamo Bowl. Remember, Keelan Robinson was the starter there, and it didn't work out well. Trying to run everybody, not everybody's suited to run in between the tackles.
No,
you could, it's just one of those things that I think some guys have that knack to get skinny, and that power element in their game, and other guys don't. All right, let's get to, speaking of running backs, they added a graduate transfer running back, Velton Gardner from SMU, and Sark talked about the process of acquiring Velton Gardner, and also talked about how he is now, easing into his role with the team.
Yeah, so Velton Garner has joined us from SMU as a grad transfer. He was a guy that we had to wait to see if he was going to graduate and if he could get it all done. And he really kind of fits the mold of the style of backs we have right now. A really versatile guy, natural running ability, very good hands out of the backfield. So I think that the transition for him coming to our system fits well and bodes well with kind of the other three guys, with the addition of Ryan Niblett doing some things for us back there as well. So he just kind of fits the mold. And so it's an easy transition for us and for him. Obviously he's got a lot of experience, and he's a veteran player that way. So glad we were able to do that. And I know everybody keeps wanting to complain about the transfer portal, but I'm one that's going to say, glad we have it. We were able to get a free agent here right before the season. So.
Yeah, that was good. That's a smart move by Sark to get some depth in that running back room with that grad transfer. And shout out to Brandon Harris, the GM. That's what you look for, right? Holes in the roster and creative ways to fill them. So Sark has talked about, and we may even see Velton Gardner in that game if Texas gets up big enough, because you're going to want to, like I said, safeguard Jaden Blue and safeguard Trey Wisner, your top two backs, from any further injury. But Sark was asked about the rotation, right? Finding a rhythm and rotating so many guys. He admits he's going to play a ton. He's going to take a ton of people. First, second team is going to play. They've been trying to play guys on the third team potentially if they get a chance. Here's Sark talking about the conundrum of being able to find a rhythm with rotating so many guys.
You just do it. I wish I had a better answer for you than that. We practice it. We practice it in a way where we've got a rotation. We have certain packages for certain players to be on the field together at certain times. We've got, obviously, have our own personnel groupings that we try to get on the field. And there's some maybe a little bit more elaborate this year than we had a year ago. And then you put together a game plan, and then you try to come up with your openers, and you try to come up with your must calls, and you try to identify the guys that you think are really reliable on third down, and you try to rely on those guys in the red area that can make those tough plays that we talked about, and then highlight them when those opportunities present themselves.
All right, there, Sark talking about the challenge of finding a rhythm. They just do it. So they're gonna throw guys out there, just gonna throw them into the fire. Hey, you're doing too deep. You're doing too deep. You will play. Period. He also was asked about the heat, something Texas should have the advantage of in this matchup coming up this weekend, because Colorado State, I'm sure they're in great shape, and they got the elevation that they train in, but the Texas Heat is a whole nother monster, as we all know. And Sark was asked about rotating guys. How do you find that that obviously that rotation, and how do you keep guys fresh when you're dealing with such high temperatures?
I think definitely defensively we'll keep the same what we did. I think last year in the first half of the Rice game, we might have played 32 or 33 players on the defensive side of the ball in that first half alone. And so playing multiple players on the defensive side of the ball, I think will be big. I think inevitably what we've learned from an offensive perspective coming out of the Rice game is whatever's on tape probably isn't what we're going to see. Colorado State's had 9 months to get ready to play us. And so we're going to see things that aren't anywhere on tape, and we're going to have to trust our training and execute our plays regardless of what the looks that we could be getting. And so I think that that's important, but I also think offensively us playing more players, I think will be beneficial to us as well.
All right, there's Sark talking about playing a lot of guys in the heat. It will be hot out there too. There's no question about that. But Sark has reiterated lots of guys are going to play. Said he played like 35 something guys on defense in the first half in that Rice game. So Sark probably more so than the depth he's talked about all offseason long. How they need the depth, they have to develop the depth. Red zone is another problematic area that Sark had to address this offseason. I'm sure he went deep down the rabbit hole trying to figure out how do they remedy their red zone woes. 120th in the country in touchdown percentage in the red zone, 90th in the country in scoring in the red zone. It's amazing this offense was as good as it was. I mean, considering in those, and so a key area like that, you were so deficient. So here's Sark talking about the red zone strategy going into the season.
I think the first part in the red area, we when you analyze it, we have to do a better job of not stubbing our own toe in the red area. False starts, penalties, negative plays. Our efficiency rate in the red area is drastically improved when we just continue to move the ball forward. And so that's the first part that we've made a huge point of emphasis on, of having the right mental intensity when we get into those situations to really play clean football and execute what we're trying to get done. Now, when it comes down to the red area, sometimes it's making the right call at the right time. Sometimes it comes down to making a play. Sometimes it comes down to the runner making that last guy miss that tackle. There's always kind of that extra hat the closer to the end zone you get. You're going to have to make some contested catches. The field shrinks there. But I do have confidence in our players' ability to go do that. I think we've got great schemes. Now we have to go do it. From a receiver standpoint, time will tell, as we go. A lot of these guys are going to play. We're going to play a lot of receivers, especially early in the season, and finding that rhythm and that rapport, and especially that rotation of players as we go. But I definitely have the utmost confidence in all those guys. It's just finding the right rhythm. And naturally, there's certain guys that the ball finds them. I used to say this a lot about Devontae Smith when we had him. The ball would find Devontae. It wasn't like we had to design plays for him a lot of the times. There's other players that sometimes you have to design plays for them to make sure that they get their touch. And that every year kind of takes on a life of its own. And so that's something we're going to have to monitor early in the season, of who's the ball find naturally, and then who do we have to make sure that we design a few things for early in games to make sure that they get involved and get their touches.
All right, there's Sark talking about the many dynamics that are at play in the red zone there. I love what he said at the end, though, about the wide receiver position. There's some guys, organically the ball will find them within the offense, whether they just take their game to the next level, or chemistry with the quarterback, or they're just their compatibility with the offensive scheme. Let that happen naturally. Then when you see guys who aren't necessarily maximized in that natural organic fashion, then that's when you scheme ways and you manipulate ways within the scheme to try to get those guys to football. So I really like that approach by Sark. Let it happen naturally and organically. Here is Sark, though, on another deficiency for Texas. And I don't think we talked about it, but I don't think people talk about it enough. Texas has been average in third down offense the last couple of years, 70th and 73rd in third down offense the last 2 years. Here's Sark actually being asked about how you address the third down offense this upcoming season.
Kind of similar to the red area, where I felt like we were in way too many third and long situations a year ago. And part of that is because of some self-inflicted wounds. Too many false starts, too many, penalties or negative plays that knocked us back. And, the conversion rate is just not good when it's 3rd and 7 plus. It's just not good. It's not good for anybody. And when those are the bulk of your conversion plays, we need to be better there. We need to move those numbers into 3rd and 5s and 3rd and 4s. On the flip side, we need to be better in the kind of that 3rd and 2 to 3 range. Our execution's got to improve. And so how do we rectify it? I'm a solution oriented guy. We got to minimize the self-inflicted wounds. And then we got to make sure that we're really dialed in the execution component from that 3rd and 2 to 4 type range to where those should be a high completion or conversion rate. And we weren't quite as high as where we need to be in that phase.
All right, there's Sark talking about their upcoming opponent and also getting into some of the other aspects that Texas will be challenged with and faced with this upcoming weekend in their first game of the season. We come back, we'll get into off the record. Quinn Ewers, masterful performance, great script. I got to tell you, I think the Dr. Pepper people nailed it. We'll play that audio when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Baker is coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is time to get into a little off the record conversation. And, one of the things that we've been keeping up with is all the NIL deals that Quinn Ewers is getting. He's getting a ton of NIL love. I can't even keep up with all of them. He's got Hulu. He's got the private jet company. He's got, is it like Roback or something like that?
Yeah,
like
the clothing.
company.
Yeah, the Roback clothing.
Yeah. I mean, he's got so, like I said, it's just tough to keep up these days. And he's also now one of the featured athletes in the Dr. Pepper series, about the Fanville college football series, sponsored by Dr. Pepper. And it's actually pretty funny. And Brian Bosworth, the Boz, I don't know if he's a sheriff or what his role is, but he's a sheriff, right? So he's got a recurring role. But Quinn Ewers now is a part of the cast here. And they address certain narratives and certain stories, or at least they try to hint at certain narratives. They basically like snatch topics from the headlines of college football and try to apply them in their Fanville series commercials. And I think for Longhorn fans, they might have hit the nail on the head. Here it is.
On a tense Fansville by Dr. Pepper.
Holy smoke, State 1 and the fans are going wild. Deputy Ewers, quick! Call for backup.
Backup?
Yes, Deputy Quinn Ewers.
We don't need any backup. I got this.
Call backup.
I'm sorry, did you say you wanted a Dr. Pepper?
I said backup.
Look, we don't need any backup, even if he has great hair and famous relatives.
I think we're talking about two different things here.
College football, it's a Pepper thing.
You know I made it to the playoff.
Without any backup. I get it.
Well done. And actually, did need the backup though.
He did.
We did need the backup. Technically, you needed
the
Malik
season.
Murphy.
Throughout the season, yeah, you did. You did.
You need the backup, but I love it. Well done.
It was a well done commercial. We got a couple other things we can hit now too. We can go on the two players with mullets there, Brian Bosworth and Quinn Ewers, both mulleted players.
Didn't even realize that. That's a good point. Yeah.
We go there. And then I'm hoping they got one ready for the Texas OU weekend.
Oh yeah.
They gotta do that one.
They definitely do.
Pull that one out,
no
Texas
question.
OU weekend, and
there's no doubt. They definitely got one. I wonder what it'll be about though. Like what's the storyline?
But just because they just gotta be like little sly jokes like that.
I know, but that one was, like I said, it was perfect. Like the backup thing. Like it really did. It worked. It worked on so many levels. And all nationally, everybody gets it. I think it hits home regionally and locally. It hits. And like I said, I thought Quinn's comedic timing was pretty damn good. And like I said, the relevant topic. So to be so on point, I thought they did a good job with that. Yeah. And I think they'll. I know they're already taking a shot at Connor Stallions. I think they'll take another shot at them too. So the Texas-Michigan game, I don't know if they'll have another one there for the Texas-Michigan game, but that'd be nice to have a Connor Stallions shot. Take a jab at Connor Stallions.
I'm sure they will.
They did it already, but they'll.
They'll. I'm sure they'll keep doing it over and over again. Which, by the way, that documentary, The Untold on Netflix, is apparently out today, so you can go watch it.
Oh, let me check it out. Actually, I can see right now.
87 minutes seems a little long for me.
That too long for you?
That's
come on.
It's a little long. It's a little long.
They probably do a lot of background though. They probably do a lot of background on Harbaugh.
I don't need.
But you don't need the background because you know the background. But there are a lot of people.
I don't have 87 minutes to waste listening to this guy, and this is why I'm not sold on it. Is I've seen a couple of people that are basically like Connor Stallions is trying to become a victim in this. And it doesn't do a great job portraying him, but it's like he's trying to become a victim. And then this is the most damning thing is one of the reviews is from a Michigan website, and they're like, it's pretty balanced. And I'm like, no, that's not good. That's not good if they think it's balanced.
That's not good. Yeah, that means you're not balanced at all. Yeah, no doubt. I always said if you want to get a little bit of hate from both sides, then you know you're actually balanced.
Yeah, exactly.
You get a little bit of hate from both sides. When I get people telling me that, Rod B, you're a Longhorn homer, and then people like, Rod B, man, you're a hater, man. Why you hating on Texas so much? I'm like, okay, I hit the sweet spot. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. I need people from both sides telling me, hey, that they don't like what I'm saying, and I know, like, okay, I hit the sweet spot there. But you're right. I didn't know. I hope he's not trying to play the victim. I thought he'd be like cocky and arrogant about what he did, to the point where, because he's a Michigan man, they won a national title. And I thought he'd have like, I don't know, kind of some arrogance about it because he basically took their cheating to such a level of sophistication that nobody had ever even imagined that you'd be able to do that. And it's like, I mean, so maybe he's got shame and remorse. I thought he'd have more.
I don't
kind
think
of
I had shame and
arrogance.
remorse. I think he doesn't like that he got basically
Caught.
blamed for it. And he's like, "Why am I the scapegoat?" And you're like, "Because you did it."
Well, and you admit, I thought he was doing it for the,
I don't.
doing
I
it for
don't
the
think. I
brand.
think the reviews of the quick reviews I've read in
Okay.
the minutes where I have in breaks is that he's
He thinks he got thrown under the bus.
thinks he got thrown under the bus on this
Okay.
one, and that there's no
Okay.
the allegations are kind of made up, and that there's no proof that any of this stuff that you can really show, and it's overblown. But I got thrown under the bus, and maybe if they would have talked to me, we could have let this whole thing go right out. And you're just like, no, Connor.
No, Connor. Come on, man. Don't worry. You're not going to jail, is it? You good? This is just it's a scandal, a college football scandal.
Yeah.
You're not going. You ain't got to worry about getting called to testify in court or anything. You're good.
No,
You know
and
what I mean?
look,
give the middle finger to the NCAA. It's okay.
Just change your name, and then you'll be a coach again in a couple years. You'll be fine.
I think you go coach at some lower levels. I don't know.
I mean, look, we know Greg Williams got back into coaching, has been coaching for a while, and that was a guy that everybody thought would have been done after Bounty Gate.
Very true.
And that dude, he took like 2 years off, and he was back. And everyone's like, well, he's still good.
Yeah.
He's still a good defensive coach. Like,
I mean, there are a lot of coaches who have been shamed. I mean, Bobby Petrino's back. Bobby Petrino's offensive coordinator at Arkansas, right? He's going to be an interim coach at Arkansas by the time Texas plays him, potentially. So you can have the shame and then kind of make your comeback. You just got to start at the lower levels again and show you actually can coach. And then unless you're Art Prowse, they'll let you back in the community.
Yeah.
As long as you do anything like that is unforgivable. And I think what he did is you can forgive that. That's nothing. That's just cheating. You're good at cheating. Okay. As long as you show you can coach, I think Connor Stats will be all right. But I guess I'll watch it. It's short too, so I'll check it out maybe today or tomorrow.
Short, 87 minutes. Short.
How long is Connor Stallions' like testimony or his interview? That's what I want.
I don't know. Apparently too long.
That's what I want to. I want to hear him talk about it. Him talk about how involved he was. And
I know Central Michigan had to make a statement this morning as well because of stuff that was in it. So who knows what's actually, but yeah.
He was on that sideline though.
Yeah.
I mean, how did he get there? Did they reveal how he got on the sideline?
I'm assuming so because Central Michigan made a statement. I'm assuming that they said one thing and they were like, that's not exactly true. Or we've made amends or whatever it is. I don't know.
Somebody got in trouble for that.
Yeah,
because you ain't supposed to be able to just get on the sideline unless you are legit. That they go through a process of vetting those folks and that kind of stuff. So that's actually something Central Michigan is going to deal with. All right, we come back. We'll get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. A couple of Longhorns who had really good preseasons that may foreshadow them actually getting a lot more playing time in the regular season. We'll also dive into some Longhorn football discussion. We'll preview Texas versus Colorado State. Colorado State released their depth chart. We'll go through that depth chart, continue to preview the matchup. We'll also dive into Rod's rant of the day. Got a couple of topics we can hit there. We also have some Sark sound we have not dove into just yet. So we'll try to play that Sark sound that you haven't heard. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a top of the charts Tuesday. That's when Patrick plays jams that reach the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. So we appreciate my man Patrick always hooking us up with a top of the charts Tuesday. Also, he hooks us up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day. And this one is Longhorn football related because we're all in a Longhorn football state of mind with the Texas kicking off the season versus Colorado State this upcoming weekend. And Patrick, give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day.
How many rushing yards will Texas have against Colorado State? We gave you a few different options on there. We gave you 0 to 99, which is about 6%. We gave you 200 plus, which is at 16%. And then leading the way at 52% is 150 to 199. So that basically 150 to 200 range is where people believe that they're going to fall. And then you get 26% of people say between 100 and 150. So in that range.
Yeah. I'm in 150 to 200, somewhere in that range. I think is where they fall. Could change based on Jaden Blue's, explosive runs in that game. And that could also change based on if the offensive line just looks truly dominant because they'll have a huge mass advantage over that Colorado State defensive front. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I just think ultimately you're going to pull Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner as soon as you can. Like I said, I don't know when it's going to be, but as soon as you decide I got a comfortable lead, I think they'll get pulled before Quinn gets pulled. I think he may try. I think they may have a comfortable lead by halftime, and then Quinn still go out there for the first drive of the second half, and then I think those running backs. I think you start rotating as early as you can, and then once you think Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner give you enough quality reps and work, those guys they're out. You can't take a chance on those guys getting nicked up again. So,
and just to look at last season in non-conference, they had 158 against Rice and 185 against Wyoming. So both in that sweet spot.
Yep. Yeah, that's probably, and that's when you had depth at running back, right? You had tremendous depth and talent at running back. You don't have as much depth now.
We did get Horns Forever to respond and say 237 yards, very specific, 237 and 165 from Blue.
Oh, that means he broke like 2 runs.
Yeah, that's got to be at least 2 you broke there.
I would say if he gets 160, that means one of those is like a 40 or 50 yarder that he broke, which Jaden Blue has been known to do. Not trying to rhyme there, but yeah, no doubt. I definitely could see that with a guy like Jaden Blue too. So there you go. We'll get into some more Texas Colorado State discussion because we're going to look at their depth chart actually, which was released yesterday. We'll get into the depth chart for the Colorado State Rams so you can get to know them. We'll talk about the major players for them and the difference makers. And we'll also get into Rod's rant. I'll look at some of the Longhorn rookies in the NFL and what their preseason might tell us about what they're projected to do and how they're projected to be used by their teams in the regular season, mostly on the offensive side of the ball. We'll dive into that. And there is and I've seen this now in multiple places, there is an opinion, I think, more than anything. And some people said this opinion is backed up by some statistical and film analysis about Jalen Hurts. And I'm sure you've probably heard it before, but now I'm starting to hear more and more NFL insiders bring this up as a potential tragic flaw of Jalen Hurts. And hey, the Cowboys might need to take advantage of this what they're seeing as an obvious tragic flaw of him, and that this is something that Kellen Moore is going to have to try to figure out with Jalen Hurts. So if we have some time, we'll dive into that too. We also have a couple of other topics that we want to get into, including more audio from Steve Sarkisian. We didn't get to all of the audio from his media availability yesterday, so there are a couple other nuggets I want to bring up. So we'll probably cram that into the next segment too. If we don't have time, we'll do a smorgasbord, if you will. But before we do any of that, let's get updated, informed, and let's get educated on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros dropped the first game of their series with the Phillies 3-2 in extra innings last night. The Astros took a 2-run lead in the 4th on a Shea Whitcomb double, but gave up runs in the 5th and 6th innings to leave the game tied heading into extra innings. The Astros couldn't get the runners home from second base, and Bryce Harper got a single in the bottom of the 10th, sending the winning run home. Justin Verlander now will get his second start returning from injury today as the Astros look to even the series. And the Rangers begin their series with the league-worst Chicago White Sox, hoping to make a last-ditch effort at a run for the playoffs. Andrew Heaney will get the start for the Rangers against Garrett Crochet, who has been one of the only bright spots for the White Sox this season. In the NFL, the Cowboys finally came to terms with CeeDee Lamb on a 4-year, $136 million extension yesterday. The deal will reportedly include $100 million guaranteed and a $38 million signing bonus. The Cowboys are also reportedly meeting with free agent running back Dalvin Cook in Dallas as final roster cuts are due today at 3 p.m. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. CeeDee Lamb gets his big deal. Now the Cowboys can start focusing on that Dak deal and see if they can get that done before the season starts. Let's dive into this depth chart for Colorado State and talk about the Buffaloes a little bit more so that Longhorns will be well prepped and well informed about this upcoming matchup this weekend. And I was doing some more research, and we'll start here with the depth chart that I found, and is doing some research about some of the players here specifically. They have kind of these concentrated pockets of strength on the team. I think the connection between the quarterback Braden Fowler Nicolosi and Torrey Horton's probably the most important and the most impactful of all those the strengths for this team. Now, Braden Fowler Nicolosi, as I pointed out, he, although has some talent, he's considered a gunslinger. He is very careless with the football, and he had 16 interceptions last season. Ended up having, I believe, 4 games where he threw multiple interceptions. He will make ill-advised throws. Now, that was last season. He may have grown, and there may be some growth in his game. And if that is the case, then I think he'll lower the risk factor in his game. But right now, he's a high risk, high reward player, and I think Texas can take advantage of that. And so he's the quarterback. And like I said, he threw for 3,400 yards last year, 22 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, a 132 quarterback rating. And like I said, I think ultimately he's got some talent, but I would like to see Texas take away his number one threat, which is Torrey Horton. One thing he does really well, and I think he has a couple of things that he's good at. One thing he does really well is he avoids pressure. Now, it's also the system. The system is an air raid-ish system, so he gets the ball out really quickly. All right, so the ball is going to come out 2.6 seconds last season on average. And his pressure to sack percentage is around 9.4% pressure to sack percentage. Just to give you a little context, Quinn Ewers, according to Pro Football Focus, his pressure to sack percentage is 24% in 2023. Big difference. And that's a big reason why their offensive line allowed 14 sacks last season. That was one of the lowest numbers in the country. That was one of the top 20 best pass protection units in the country when you're looking at sacks allowed. Now, part of it was the offensive line. I think that even a bigger part of it is the system where the ball comes out quickly and they're throwing a lot of underneath throws. So the question will be, if you're Texas, you have a lot of now talent on the edges. You've upgraded your talent on the edges. Can you get to Braden Fowler Nicolosi before the ball comes out in 2.6 seconds? Can you affect him? Can you start to collapse that pocket on him in that amount of time, right? That's a short time span. So if you don't have BGO, ball get off, and a speed rush as part of your elite traits as a pass rusher, then I don't know how much you're going to affect the quarterback and be able to get to the quarterback to force negative plays and get a sack, unless they have longer developing routes, which we'll get to. So if that's not the case, then you got to train half of your D-line, at least the group that doesn't have the BGO and the speed rush element to their game. They can't beat their blocker in front of them and beat their guy quickly. Their internal clock, whether it's 2.6, 2.7 seconds, right around that time, they need to know ball's coming out. So if you can't get home, then get your hands up. All right. If you can't get to the quarterback, you got to get your hands up. If you don't beat your guy initially, that's all right. It's not going to always happen. And it's a pass down, get your hands up. They're going to throw it early and often. And like I said, they're going to use the quick game to do it. And they're going to be trying to get the ball to Torrey Horton mostly. But that's what they do really well. We didn't talk about that. They're good in pass protection. They were last year, and Texas has upgraded their pass rush. If Texas doesn't have the ability to get home, they might have to figure out another plan to try to affect Braden Fowler and Nicolosi. I think the plan should be take away Torrey Horton, and he's a stud. As a matter of fact, their starting wide receivers are going to be Torrey Horton, Armani Winfield, who's the former Texas commit. He decommitted from Texas, went to Baylor, and then decommitted from them. Not decommitted, but transferred from Baylor now to Colorado State. So he's a Sark type receiver, 6'2". He can go. He can run. And Torrey Horton, of course, as we talked about, or we'll talk about more, but those guys have good size. Torrey Horton, 6'3", about 185, 190. Armani Winfield, 6'2", about 205. Then there's Dylan Goffney. Now, Dylan Goffney and Armani Winfield, they're both transfers. If I'm not mistaken, Goffney comes from, I believe it might be SMU, actually, if I'm not mistaken. So those guys are transfers. The one he's got the chemistry with is, of course, the biggest threat on that offense and the best player on this roster, which is Torrey Horton. So if I am Texas, I don't play that straight up. I know some coaches want to play it straight up and they figure, oh, I'll play it straight up. And if I have to adjust, I will. I don't give them a chance. I don't give them a breath of life. I take away the number one and only threat on the offense that is a proven commodity. The run game is a bottom 20 run game in all of college football, so they can't run the ball really well. They don't have any proven commodities on offense at the skill positions. Justin Marshall's a redshirt freshman who's got one start under his belt. Armani Winfield and Dylan Goffney just transferred in at the wide receiver position. Vince Brown, the second, he's a senior at tight end. He's got 11 starts under his belt, but he's not necessarily a weapon that they use. They don't really have any proven commodities other than Torrey Horton. Like I said, who is a guy that's going to play on Sundays. He will be drafted. I mean, there's not enough superlatives I can throw out there about Torrey Horton. But here's the thing to keep in mind. Most of his damage is done short to intermediate area. If you go look at it, 42 of his 50 targets in the middle of the field, short, so 0 to 10 yards, and between the numbers. So between the numbers from 0 to 10 yards, he caught 42 of 50 targets in the middle of the field. That's where he loves to work. That's his sweet spot. Middle of the field, in between the numbers, between 0 to 9 yards. That's where he goes to work. If you look at just the intermediate area of the field, caught 4 touchdowns there, 10 of 11 on targets in the intermediate area of the field. So that's where he's going to work. Short to intermediate area in between the numbers. So in between the numbers, if you look at short and intermediate in between the numbers, he's at 52 of 61. Like that's the numbers that they have for him in terms of how he works the middle in between the numbers, short and intermediate area of the field. He led the nation in receiving yards on short passes, 575 yards, as we pointed out. That's passes under 10 yards. Second best short receiving grade by Pro Football Focus in the nation, 96.5. And then tied for the fastest average speed. The fourth fastest average speed at nearly 22 miles per hour. Actually had at last year, he hit a top speed too. He tied Malik Neighbors, the LSU, for a top speed of nearly 23 miles per hour. So he can run. But it's not deep. 5 of 27 on passes 20 yards or more. And he actually had a drop that could have been a touchdown on one of those passes. So he's not a deep threat. So their deep ball passing grade, last season for Colorado State, 105th in the country. And it was a 66.8. So what you know is you know where he works, short to intermediate, and you know he's the only proven commodity that they're going to build the passing game around. Why give them life? Take it away initially. You take him away. You put a corner down to play bump and run on him. Take away the short intermediate game, the quick slants, the inside breaking routes, and then you roll the safety over the top of them to let the corner know, be aggressive, take it away, be really, really deliberate with your inside leverage. Take all the short game away and don't worry about getting beat deep because we'll put a safety over the top if they want to force feed him the football. Take that away. Initially, if you do it with alignment, you'll deter that quarterback even in a pre-snap from looking over there, and then you can predetermine where he's gonna go with his first read, because it won't be, and it's he's going to his second read all the time. It's a 2.6 seconds time to throw, so they're getting the ball out quickly, and you'll take away his top target with your initial alignment pre-snap. And then you know where he's going with the football. Then you can tell your D lineman, all right, I know the passing window is going to be on his right side because, and this is the thing too, to keep in mind, because we know about Torrey Horton. He lines up out wide 75% of the time. That's good. That means that if he's going to be out there, you can put a corner over him to bump and run and press him. And he's to the right of the formation a lot of the time. That's an air raid thing. They like guys to kind of specialize in one position. So if that is the case, and he's going to be there, by the way, I don't think he'll be there as much anymore. I think they'll move him around more in this Texas matchup. That'll be one of the ways they break tendency. But he's still out wide 75% of the time to the right side of the formation. And then you can even dictate where his passing windows are going to be, because he's going to go away from where you're rolling coverage and where you're bumping his receiver. He's going to go away from that initially in his read, and then you can tell the D lineman on that side, hey, I need you to get your hands up if you don't get home, because we know he's going to pass to this side of the field, the left side of the field, where Torrey Horton is not, because we've already taken him away. We've taken away his first read. And then you also will increase the odds of him throwing a pick or making an ill-advised throw to those other guys too, because he didn't have good chemistry with those guys. It's a win-win. So I wouldn't play it straight up. Some coaches like, play it straight up. Don't play it straight up. Take it away. Take him out of the game initially. Don't give him life. Let him grow frustrated. Let the quarterback grow frustrated, and the coaches not being able to get their best player of the football. Take away their best player and make them beat you with somebody else. That's football 101 to me. Their offensive line is, I think, actually a little bit underrated. The interior offensive line is impressive. Jacob Gardner, the center, 45 starts. Drew Moss, the right guard, 34 starts. Those guys work well together. Alex Foster, who's got the left guard, he's got 17 starts under his belt. So that starting interior line is impressive for them. They do have a left tackle, Savion Henderson, who's got 32 starts under his belt. So that's impressive. And they got Aaron Karras, 0 starts at right tackle. The veteran experience and the strength of this O-line is in the interior. If they're going to run at Texas, and I don't think they can run at Texas, but if they decide to, it'll probably be in the interior, because that's where the most question marks are for Texas. On the outside, you got proven commodities like Burke and Baron Sorrell, and now with Trey Moore on the outside, and also, Colton Vosick and Justice Finkley and Colin Simmons, a lot of talent on the outside. After losing Devondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, you have less impactful players on the inside, less proven commodities on the inside. That's why you brought in 3 D tackles in the transfer portal. If you're Colorado State, you test that. You test what could be a problem area. That's where you test. And like I said, I think they'll, in addition to them trying to run up the middle when they do try to run in the interior, in between the tackles, I think they'll test Texas deep a little bit. They'll test Texas deep a little bit. And I think Texas could be vulnerable to the deep ball if they're playing bump and run coverage on the field and the boundary side. Remember, that's what they did late last season in the Tech game, Oklahoma State game, in the Washington game. They played a lot of bump and run late on the boundary side and on the field side. It did take away the quick game, those annoying inside breaking routes that Longhorn fans hated on 3rd and 5. It took that away. It took away the short game. It took away the easy slant and the glance, but it left them vulnerable to the deep ball. And that's why Oklahoma State 3 of 7 on deep passes against Texas. Washington was 6 of 8 on deep passes against Texas. Texas Tech didn't do much, but some teams were able to find the counter to Texas playing that aggressive bump and run coverage. So I wouldn't necessarily play it all over the field like you did later on in the season, or play it on both sides, the field and the boundary. I probably would play it just against Torrey Horton, and then put a safety over the top. So if they do try to go to the deep ball to counter your aggressive bump and run coverage, you'll have a safety valve there. I trust the other guys on defense and defense backfield to be able to match up with Colorado State's receivers in one-on-one situations, or to be able to match up with them straight up. Torrey Horton is the one that I wouldn't even try. I'm not saying you can't do it. You could, but why would you make it easy on them?
No, I mean, the way it's ball denial, which is,
yes,
we know, especially because one of his best strengths is the ball with the ball in his hands. So even saying, well, we figure we can get now you're going to need 2 or 3 guys to make sure you get him down. So you're going to have to put resources over there anyway. just to make sure you're going to have to allocate resources to tackle him if he gets the ball, even if it's a 2-yard catch or a screen or whatever else. So just already get guys up on him and get ready to tackle him. But I equate it to basketball. If you're playing against a team and they got one guy who can score a lot, you deny him the ball. Say, we'll guard everybody else one-on-one, but we were just going to deny you the ball, try our hardest to make sure you don't get it, because if you don't get it, you can't kill us. And it may make us more vulnerable somewhere else, but we'll take our chances with the rest of this roster. And that's the same thing with this, is if they've got one guy that you go, I'm not even worried about him necessarily getting wide open space. I'm worried about him being able to catch a ball 2 yards down because we're backed up off of him because we're trying to play him in single coverage, and him being able to break it because he's just got to break one tackle right then. And now we're running downfield, and now it's everybody's chance to go, and you're going to populate the football. But if he's running full speed, who's populating?
Yep. I love that. Ball denial. I know it's an NBA term, but I think it's appropriate, Patrick. Great job. Yep. Ball denial. Just don't let them get the football. If they beat you somewhere else, then you can make an adjustment, but they don't. There's nothing else really on this offense that says they can beat you with that element of their offense.
And quite frankly,
he's the only thing.
You kind of want them to run up the middle on you at points to be like, hey, let's go give these guys a test. Let's get these guys a little bit more work because we can't work them in practice as much because we don't want them killing our running backs. So run up the middle on us. We love the work before Michigan. Please give our guys some work before Michigan.
Yeah, that's a good point. They need it. And that interior offensive line, like I said, I think they actually have some talent there. Jacob Gardner can play on Sundays. I mean, he's a really good player for them at center. So I like that. Yeah, if they run up the middle, that'd be great. If you're Texas, don't bring in a reinforcement. See if those D tackles can really just hold their own.
Find out which one of your guys are playing better against you. Find out which rotation, because you're going to need it the next week.
Yeah, I just don't think they're going to try to run to the edge. They don't have the speed to beat Texas to the edge, to the corner. But they may be able to play a little bit of bully ball, maybe get some of these offensive linemen on skates a little bit.
And especially if you know they're an offense that gets the ball out quick, you're not going to be sending edge rushers constantly trying to run past everything. No. So your guys will be out there anyway trying to go on the edge. I don't know about that as much. But I please run it inside because we want to see it.
No, I'm with you. I hate the first test for that will be Michigan game, but because this is a really inept offense running the football. They just can't run it very well. They didn't run it very well last year. The running game is only symbolic pretty much with Colorado State. I know they want more balance. They just haven't been able to find it. Passing, though, they will throw it. I think they're going to throw it deep on Texas. Why wouldn't you throw it deep a little bit? And those inside breaking routes, the slants, take those away if you're Texas and make life tough on them. All right, jumping to the defensive side of the ball. I wouldn't worry much about the front, at least their defensive line. They don't have a lot of experience, and they're pretty light. They don't have a lot of difference makers and playmakers among that group. All the playmakers, in my opinion, you talk about in the back seven. Chase Wilson's a linebacker with 12 starts. He's a pretty good player. I like him. I think he 107 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 3 PBUs. He impacts the game when he's out there. He's a guy that jumps out on the film. And then after Chase Wilson, I like the secondary. The cornerback, Elias Larry, is not a bad player, but they brought in a kid, Esesima. I hope I got his name right, but they like him. He's a transfer out of Nevada, I believe. So there's a lot of buzz about him, but he's listed as a backup behind Dom Jones. Your starting corners are Elias Larry and Dom Jones. Dom Jones is big, 6'3", 195, got 15 starts under his belt, 2 interceptions, 3 PBUs. I think he's a good player. Their two best players on defense are their two safeties. Texas may not see too many safety duos that are better, like at both of these guys, Jack Howell and Henry Blackburn. Jack Howell's dad played at Colorado State, so he's a legacy guy. Dad was a 3-year starter for Colorado State in the late 90s, early 2000s. Jack Howell is a team captain, first team all conference for 2 straight seasons. He's a stud, 114 tackles, 3 PBUs, and an interception. And Henry Blackburn, 75 tackles, led the team in interceptions last year with 3 interceptions, 2.5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss. Those guys are all over the place. What you know about a veteran safety is that they're really good at recognizing route combinations because they've seen a lot of football, seen a lot of routes. So they're great at, but they can jump routes really well once they see a route combination develop that they are familiar with. Those guys are really good at jumping routes. And Texas, with a new wide receiving core, not new, but mostly new faces in that wide receiver room. They'll be trying to develop a, really good rapport and chemistry and continuity with Quinn. And so the timing of those routes is going to be big. If the timing is off, safeties who can diagnose route concepts really well and route combinations, they can jump those routes. And if your timing is off, jumping routes, all right, he's there early, ball's there late, boom. All right, there you go. So that could be potential turnover worthy situations there if the timing's not right when you're going up against safeties like this. And also, veteran safeties often are really good at disguising pre-snap shell coverages because they know their role and responsibility. They're veterans, so they know what they can pull off and how they can kind of play the chess match within the game with the quarterback, show different things pre-snap than they're going to be able to see post-snap. So that's why it's going to be a test for Quinn. Those two safeties, they'll play some mind games with Quinn, and those two safeties, I guarantee you, going to be pretty good at diagnosing route combinations and concepts, and they're going to try to jump a few when they see something they like. And if Quinn's late on those throws, or the timing's off, or the depth is off by the wide receiver, and they're not in synchronicity, then you could get an interception, or you could get their hands on a few footballs. So that's something to watch too with the veteran safeties. But that's what I like about them. I like their secondary, and I like the back six, not even the back seven, the back six. I'll throw Chase Wilson in there. They got a nickel. Dominique Morris is his name. He's a little small and undersized, but he's a guy that they believe has some natural coverage ability. He's got 9 starts. But so in the secondary, 9 starts, 28 starts, 17 starts, 15 starts, and 12 starts for their 5 members in the secondary. If you go to the front 6, if you will, the defensive ends, 0 starts. Defensive tackle, 2 starts for their starting defensive tackle. They got Barry Torres, 22 starts, but the other defensive end, 0 starts. So there are 4 defensive ends that are listed on the depth chart have 0 starts. Yeah, exactly. And then they have a linebacker, Boom Jock, who also has 0 starts. So I said there's a lot of inexperience in their front 7, dangerously inexperienced in the front 7. But like I said, or in the front 6, I say the back, and I like the back secondary, and I like Chase Wilson. So I think that group is what I like a lot. All right, we come back. We'll get into Rod's rant of the day. I will tell you about some Longhorns and their efforts in the preseason and what that may preview and project for how they're going to be used in the regular season. We got some Sark sound that we're going to throw out there too, and we'll address this latest conspiracy about Jalen Hurts. There's a report that Jalen Hurts has a fatal flaw, has a Shakespearean flaw in his game, and now every NFL team knows about it. We'll discuss that on the other side, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming back on the Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about Dr. Greg Eckert and his wonderful team. Right now is a great chance for you to head on over there, whether it be something relatively simple, routine, or whether it's something serious. You're in great hands with Dr. Eckert and his wonderful team. I owe them a huge debt of gratitude. Initially, I went there just for a routine checkup, routine cleaning. And while they were checking my teeth and checking to make sure everything was okay, they found that my wisdom teeth were growing in sideways, and I was on the verge of a disastrous situation, folks. But no need to worry, because Dr. Eckert and his team, they acted quickly. They made sure to get me scheduled for the procedure, made sure that I was educated and informed about everything going on, made sure I was comfortable with the procedure, and also I was back at work work within a couple of days after having it done. And now my dental health and dental hygiene have never been better, thanks to Dr. Eckert and his team. Now, hopefully for you, it's not as serious as having all of your wisdom teeth removed and extracted. Hopefully for you, it's something routine like a cleaning or a checkup. But if it's just general dentistry or teeth whitening, dentures, porcelain crowns, veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy, whatever it takes to ensure you're getting the best quality dental care available, that's what Dr. Eckert and his team are all about. And as a matter of fact, right now, because he's always on the cutting edge of the technological advances in general dentistry, he can give you a brand new smile in just one day, permanently secures your dental implants. No time spent without teeth. You'll get temporary fixtures first until they complete your permanent smile, and you're going to smile again with confidence and eat freely without pain or discomfort. So it's a lifelike permanent solution. So if you've been told your teeth need to be replaced, or you have dentures, or you've been told you need dentures, don't freak out. Just call Dr. Eckert to learn about this revolutionary alternative to dentures. It's a complimentary consultation, so you got nothing to lose but so much to gain, because a confident smile can truly change your life, and Dr. Eckert wants to change your life for the better. So give him a call today, 512-345-3166. That's 512-345-3166. And how about this? They're offering free Zoom whitening right now to all Horn patients. You go there, you tell them that you love listening to the Horn, that you heard about Dr. Eckert on the Horn, and you'll get free Zoom whitening. Nothing better than free 99, folks. So visit them today, dreckert.com, DRUECKERT.com. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into Rod's rant of the day. Got a couple of topics that I want to get into here. We'll have time for all of them. If not, we can obviously table some things for tomorrow. But I want to get into the Sark audio first. That's some Sark audio that we haven't gotten to. I just want to hear from the head coach, since we do this on Tuesday after his Monday media availability during the week. Here is Sark when he was asked about what's known before about his team. What does he know about this team already before week one? Here is Steve Sarkisian.
Well, I think the one thing about this team, and I've said this to a few people here in the last 3 or 4 days that have asked me about just the season, excited for the season. I'm excited for the season because this is a very close-knit team. These guys are tight. And I think because a lot of it is they grew up all together, that they've all just kind of grown up in the same household and the same culture. And then the guys that we have integrated into the program, transfers or new players, they've just kind of taken them in with open arms. And that part is something that I've learned. And you never know what that really looks like. I'm around all summer, but when you get to training camp and I really am around those guys, a majority of the day, and you can see the rapport they have with one another, that part's exciting for me because I really believe our culture is going to win us games. I felt that it did last year. I think it's going to again this year, more so than ever because of the connectivity that these guys have with one another.
All right, there's Sark talking about the one thing he knows, that this is a tight group, that they're really close. That's a good sign for any team. He also was asked about the personality of this team. Every team's got their own separate personality, their own style, their own kind of brand, their own identity. Sark was asked about this particular team and their personality. Here's what Steve Sarkisian had to say.
Well, I think it's the connectivity, because I don't think that we just have like these 1, 2, or 3 just dominant leaders that are the absolute voice of our team. A couple of years ago it was Roshan Johnson. When Roshan spoke, everybody listened. Last year it might have been Jordy Winnington and Byron Murphy. When they spoke, everybody listened. Now I feel like we have so many voices, and they're great voices, and they're speaking really good wisdom and great words. That's what makes this team special. That they're all in it together, and it's not kind of any sort of hierarchy. They're really in it together, and they know they need one another to make it happen. And so that's probably the special ingredient for this team, which is different maybe than the past couple of years.
All right, there's Sark talking about the special ingredient that makes this team unique. We also, unfortunately, my man Patrick had some very, very nice words to start out the show in honor of Edith Royal, who passed away yesterday. We found out that news. I believe Brian Davis was the first one that I saw with it. She passed away at the age of 98 years old. So our thoughts and prayers and condolences with the Royal family and with everyone who was, of course, close with the Royal family. What a loss for Longhorn Nation. Sark was asked about the passing of Edith Royal and what she meant to him. Here's Steve Sarkisian.
I did not get to meet Coach Royal, but I got a wonderful video message from Edith when I first got the job here that I still have. And the impact that they've had here, not only at the University of Texas, but in Austin, the impact that Coach Royal had on the game of football itself. And the fact that, I get to sit in the same chair he did is pretty humbling. It's definitely an honor. And so hopefully, we can go out and play a brand of football that and a style of football that he'd be proud of as well.
There's definitely going to be some type of homage. There'll be some tribute, I'm sure, to the Royal family and to Edith Royal this weekend. I just don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but something tells me they're going to put something together pretty cool. Yeah. And they should, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a legend.
She's a legend. Yeah, just awesome. And yeah, if you want to, because she was more than a coach's wife, but also if you want to look up coach's wife, that's
ideal. Yes,
that's the one, and that's what they used to say was dance with who brung you. That was kind of their thing, Daryl and Edith, and that was just always together. And it was, it was spending time with the two of them, and you would see that Edith knew how to take care of him, even though he was still coach.
No, it was that I've heard from a lot of folks who knew them really well, and you knew them better than I did too. I had the privilege of meeting Coach Royal and his lovely wife, and they were one of those kind of ideal couples.
Yeah.
In terms of the example that they set, for not only the way they treated each other, but the way they represented the brand at the University of Texas too. So obviously a heartfelt loss for the Longhorn community, but both lived a great life and had tremendous impact, a positive impact on the community. All right. So there you go. Sark sound audio from the Monday presser. Real quick, I know we're getting close to the end of here, but one of my predictions before, I believe this was right after the draft, so before the preseason, I said that I think JT Sanders is going to end up starting. I was looking at the tight ends for the Carolina Panthers. Thought to myself, I don't think any of these guys is necessarily someone who has a stranglehold on the position of tight end. And it was Tommy Tremble, Ian Thomas. I remember reading these guys off to you guys and saying I think JT Sanders is going to start by the end of the year. End of the year he'll start, or he'll definitely be the starter or the projected starter for his second year. Well, I may not have to wait that long. Listen to this. I'll read this excerpt from the Pro Football Focus insider piece here about the preseason synopsis. They said Tommy Tremble and Ian Thomas missed the entire preseason due to injury. They are still listed as starters on the Panthers depth chart. But fourth-round rookie JT Sanders was the team's primary tight end throughout the preseason. In the third game, he played 10 of possible 12 snaps with the starters before departing. That suggests he may have already overtaken one or both of the veteran tight ends. It says Jordan Matthews has consistently been the other tight end. He did not take a snap in the fourth quarter of any game and played only on the first 3 drives of the final game. That suggests he should make the final roster. So they're high on JT Sanders. They already think he's overtaken a couple of those guys. I would agree with that. Also, A.D. Mitchell, he is in a heated competition with Alec Pierce, who has been there with the Indianapolis Colts, but A.D. Mitchell is coming on fast. What happened, Josh Downs, one of the wide receivers, actually went down with an injury, had a high ankle sprain, cost him some time. So he was the slot receiver. They put A.D. Mitchell in the slot, and apparently he's been thriving. That's where he scored that touchdown in the preseason. So Mitchell played in the slot in 11 personnel when Downs was out. So that's another place where they could move him around the formation. That also gives him flexibility, but also gives them, I think, a little bit more malleability with the offense. You can put him on the outside, you can move him inside. I'm not sure they move Alec Pierce around as much as they would in A.D. Mitchell. So I think A.D. Mitchell has I think ultimately he's got the best track to end up starting at that wide receiver spot. I think he'll beat out Alec Pierce, within the first month of the season. Right now, they may be rotating those guys, but ultimately, A.D. Mitchell, I think, is going to take that job. So that's kind of what the preseason is talking about with him. Also, I was looking at and this is Xavier Worthy. He took in the preseason 19 of 24 snaps with the starters, including the first play of the first game when Brown was also on the field. So there is no doubt he's going to be a featured element in that offense. And I honestly, if I'm a fantasy guy, I'd pick up Xavier Worthy. Or I'd buy some of that stock. Been telling you guys that all offseason, they're going to have some fun with Xavier Worthy, weaponizing him. Also, Keelan Robinson missed the entire preseason due to injury, so I'm not really sure what his status is with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And just another nugget about Texas players in the preseason. Roschon Johnson's name's been coming up in some reports about he or either Khalil Herbert being trade possibilities because of the depth they have at running back. Bears have Swift, they got Rojo, they got Khalil Herbert, they got this kid Velus Jones who ran for 111 yards in their final preseason game. They really liked him. He's a receiver turned running back. Ian Wheeler is an undrafted rookie that they also really like, and those guys would be cheaper options, especially at running back. So there's a belief around the league that Rojo or Khalil Herbert might be up for possible trades if teams are looking. Cowboys talking to you. All right, we come back. We got who said that on the other side. That's when we play pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the familiarity of the voice or the context clues that we can gather, we try to identify and recall who said that. We'll have that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Low One. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a top of the charts Tuesday. That's when my man Patrick plays pieces. He plays songs that reach the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. So we appreciate him on the top of the charts Tuesday. We also appreciate him hooking us up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, which is already posted. You can go check that out for yourself on the Horns X account at the Horn ATX. And the question is simple. How many rushing yards will Texas have against Colorado State? And of you folks who voted into the poll, 150 to 199 is leading the vote right now. 53% of you said that the Longhorns will have between 150 and 199 yards against Colorado State. Second, 100 to 149. 26% of you said Longhorns will have between 100 and 149 yards. So there you go. Just check it out. You can go vote in that poll at the Horn ATX. Time for Who Said That? That's when we play pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, we have to identify and recall who said that.
Name a celebrity that would be a fast sprinter. I'm gonna have to go with gosh, I always forget his name. The football player, the one that thinks he's fast, the cheetah something, Tyreek Hill.
Wow. That is Noah Lyles, the winner of the 100 meters at the Olympics, saying that he doesn't know who Tyreek Hill is, even though Tyreek Hill has challenged him to a race and a 50-yard dash. He knows who Tyreek Hill is. He knows.
I just like, I get it. This is not the way to enhance your sport. I get it. If it's just about you, if it's just about Noah Lyles and you are trying to make a name for yourself, prize spending, then you're fine. You can be the villain and you go on and you be like, no, I'm this guy. The problem is the one thing you do does not translate past 30 years, like 35 years old. You can't do it anymore.
Nope.
So the problem is the whole gimmick dies by the time you're 40 because now you're not the fastest guy. You just used to be fast, but now when you talk trash, everyone's like, yeah, but everyone can beat you now. So now it doesn't even matter what you can do. So it's a weird poll to take. I guess try and get it while you can. But yeah,
that's what it is.
To say they're not world champions and then to pretend, no, sprinters are more famous than football players.
Yeah,
like, come
no,
on, man.
I don't get. Yeah, he's committed to the bit though. He is committed.
He's
to
committed
the
to the bit.
And the bit is like he doesn't basically respect other sports stars, or at least some of the American major pro sports stars. And maybe I think he's trying to get them to lash out back at him and start mentioning him a lot. And then that's how he'll grow his brand. I don't know if it's working out the way he wants. He needs to raise Tyreek Hill though. It would grow his brand and go out there and beat him. I mean, you so cocky and arrogant, go out there, but if you get beat by Tyreek Hill, you got to disappear forever. Then you're gonna lose. Then you lose it all. Then you lose it all. Like nobody ever respects you again. They're like, dude, you brought shame to the entire track and field community. You let that football player beat you when this is what we do. No, man. So that's the danger. It's like LeBron and the dunk contest, right? LeBron could have won a dunk contest. We all know that he's got that kind of skill level. But what if he didn't? That's what LeBron kept thinking about. What if I get beat by one of these guys out in the dunk contest?
Desmond
I'll never
Mason
live it
beats
down.
me.
Yeah, exactly. He'll never live it down. Ain't like Dominique Wilkins out there. That guy, like, no, you might get beat by some scrub dude. And I think he always feared that. And I think ultimately that's kind of what you're dealing with here. I mean, I don't know if he'll race him because I don't know if Tyreek Hill, listen, in a 50-yarder, he's got a shot. Don't forget, in the Olympics, Noah Lyles was last at 50 yards. He was last in that race at 50 yards. Not saying Tyreek Hill wouldn't have been last, but that's not his strength of his game, or of his skill set, I should say. All right, there you go. Great stuff there, Patrick. We appreciate you, man. Great job as always. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. And until next time, same channel, hook 'em and peace.